You're on.
All right, great. Good morning. Welcome to the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners agenda setting work session for Tuesday, January 5th, 2021. I'm the Vice Chair of the Board of County Commissioners, Ty Menser. We do not have a chair selected for 2021. That's on today's orders of business. But we do have Commissioner Gary Edwards and our brand new District 1 Commissioner, Carolina Mejia, present. Good morning, Happy New Year to my seatmates, and welcome to Commissioner Mejia. We're very glad to have you aboard. We have agenda that we're going to shift around a little bit because of some scheduling conflicts. So before I do that, though, we've got Kurt Harden from Emergency Services, Matt Unzelman from Public Works, Jeremy Davis from our Community Planning Economic Development. We have Michael Crow from our your Central Services, right, Michael? Make sure I get that right.
Yes, you did.
Okay, very good. Keely Marino and Tom Webster from our Homeless and Housing Office through Public Health. On the Zoom, you can join this call, or you can watch this through YouTube. County Manager, anything else I need to say as in preliminary?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. For those members of the public who would like to join us via conference call, the phone number is 360-252-9020, and the PIN number is 1234.
Because we do not have, based on the latest and continuing guidance from the state, we do not have open boardroom for the meetings. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct, and that stands until January 19th. That's based on the proclamation the governor stated on the Open Public Meetings Act, and we will make an effort to for the citizens to follow this, as you stated, via our YouTube channel as well as a conference call, as I stated on the number.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to spell that out because it has obviously changed over the last few months, and we anticipate it may change again. We're not sure about that, but we'll try to keep folks apprised of how they can track these meetings if they so choose. So the first item on today's agenda is a COVID-19 update, but I understand that our two key staff members there, or our employees, would be Shelley Slaughter and Dr. Abdul Malik, our County Health Officer. Shelley is our Director of Public Health and Social Services. They have an emergency meeting with Department of Health. We're going to slot them in later in about an hour. When they, whenever they're available, we'll just move that agenda item up. But if you're looking to tune into that, it's going to be probably another hour before we address that topic. So we'll go to topic number 2 for today's agenda, which is homeless strategies. And Keely Marino just popped up, and I'm going to turn it directly to Keely.
Good morning, commissioners, and welcome, Commissioner Mejia. It's good to have you here. Just a brief update for us today. I'm going to continue on the reporting on the eviction prevention and rental assistance program that Community Action Council of the County of Thurston was facilitating for us. They ended the first round of that was slated to end at the end of December, that contract initially at the end of December. And at that point, they had spent $2.9 million of the $3 million to assist our citizens of Thurston County with rent. They served 942 households and paid 2,571 months in back rent. And that's just one arm of eviction prevention that we have had at the end of 2020. We did get news from the Department of Commerce that that contract, the Eviction Prevention and Assistance Program, the ERAP program, will be extended to the end of June. And we have an extra about $160,000 to spend towards those efforts. So we will continue. As we all know, I hope the Governor Inslee has extended the eviction moratorium till the end of March of this year. So we anticipate, we hope that there's more opportunities to help our citizens stay housed during as this pandemic continues. We are gearing up for our point in time count, our annual census. That is a requirement of the Department of Housing and Urban Development this year. As I've stated previously, it is a voluntary for each community to provide a point in time census in the traditional sense where there are surveys to be taken. We are opting out of that as our continuum of care, the balance of state we belong to, will not be sending in a report to HUD as that is, as I said, voluntary. So we'll be doing essentially a head count of those who are unsheltered on the day of January 29th. And we will be pulling all other data that is required through the homeless management information system. So those who are staying in shelter and then the housing inventory. As the cold weather season moves forward, I've mentioned before that we do have a decrease in the total number of beds available for individuals and families seeking shelter this year. However, we are absolutely relying on our outreach workers right now. They have become quite essential to the work that we're doing to help keep our unhoused citizens of Thurston County safe and warm and healthy. So we have outreach workers going out almost on the daily to provide items, survival gear that keep people warm, keep people hydrated, offer hygiene supplies. So we're continuing those efforts through voluntary and contracted agencies. And then wrapping up with the safe parking program, I know that's on many people's minds. We're continuing those conversations with the technical team of the Regional Housing Council. It's a complicated project, and any of us could participate.
Hey, Elizabeth, could you mute yourself?
Can I what?
Mute yourself, please.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Sorry, go ahead, Keely.
So we're working very closely with the City of Olympia. Currently we're working with the City of Olympia and their engineer, looking at specific properties that belong to the City of Olympia and broadening our look elsewhere just in case those do not come to fruition. So we are diligently working on it. We know it's extremely important to our community to find places for people who are living aboard their vehicles to be safe. And that's my report.
Thank you, Keely. Questions for Keely from other commissioners? Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, I have a question. Keely, I'm a little confused on the point in time. You said it was a mandatory report for HUD, but then you said it was voluntary. So could you clarify those issues? And I think I'd heard maybe on the news media that King County was not doing a point in time. So that's kind of what raises the question, please.
Thank you for asking that, Commissioner Edwards. So it is an annual it's a that is mandated by Housing and Urban Development at the federal level of all local communities to do an annual census of those who are living outside. So in that, it does determine allocations of funds in every year but this. And so this year, the Department of Housing and Urban Development understand that each local community knows best how to keep their unsheltered individuals and volunteers safe. And so although it is a mandatory count, this year you can opt out of it as determined by your local community if that is the safest option for you. However, we think it's valuable to have some kind of accounting for the number of individuals staying outside. And so our Department of Commerce, who is our continuum of care, is gathering that information, but that will be mostly from our local knowledge and for the state's knowledge of how many individuals are unsheltered at this time. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, just you were fading in and out, but I think I got it. Thank you.
I'll move closer.
Commissioner Mejia, anything for Keely or Tom?
Yes, actually. Keely, I would like to know more about the safe parking program. Can you give us a little bit more of an overview on that, please?
Sure. So in November, I believe, of this past year, the City of Olympia had, this started with Ensign Road. So Ensign Road, if you've driven down it and in the last year, you've seen it. ebb and flow with number of vehicles that are staying along it, but it's certainly not the only place where vehicles are parking where people are living aboard them. And so the city of Olympia, due to some safety concerns, had asked them to voluntarily move on if they so wished, and gave them some incentives on a certain day. Because the governor's eviction moratorium, according to the state attorney general's office, in their opinion, applied to those individuals living aboard their vehicles. And so that spurred an urgent desire to see a place where those individuals could move to not only provide a safer transportation for folks and movement down Ensign Road just generally, and then more safe for individuals that are living aboard their vehicles to park. And so the city of Olympia, or actually the Regional Housing Council's technical team, which is comprised of staff from Olympia, Lacey, Tumwater, the county. The technical team is chaired by myself. We've been investigating how to move forward. And so the city of Olympia initially put forward their 2 properties on Martin Way and Carpenter Road that are adjacent to our property that's owned there, but more to the east of our property as potential for a safe parking program. So that is still where we've been focusing most of our efforts, is looking at how viable that site is. We have the engineer, the city of Olympia's engineer, has been drawing up some schematics to look at technically how viable is that space for vehicle parking. And we're in that process right now. So I have met with the engineer, the assistant city manager, and the home fund manager last week to discuss where we're at in that process. And so we have a couple more pieces of information that we need that the engineer is looking into. And I assume that we'll be having that conversation about where we're at specifically on Wednesday when we meet weekly.
Any other questions?
Any follow-up there, Commissioner Mejia? I'm not hearing very well.
Let me see if I'm.
There we go. Okay.
Yes.
No, Commissioner Menser, and thank you, Keely, for that.
I would just add into that the board, when we were presented with this, and I think it was reported in the paper, but we and I want to choose my words carefully, we made available for discussion some funding for this program, contingent on hearing the specifics and what it was going to entail. But the board, or at least the majority of the board, I believe, committed to making a particular amount of money, and I want to say $530,000 open for discussion toward moving this project forward. Again, contingent on hearing more about exactly where it was going to be and how it was going to be managed. So I just wanted you to have that background in case you didn't hear that, Commissioner Mejia. Okay, my question, Keely, is yesterday at there's been a break in it, but usually it's a weekly WASAC, Washington State Association of Counties. Mm-hmm. They presented, there's a presentation on COVID-19 related, not the health part, but more the financial part. And so there was a presentation from someone from the National Association about the legislation that was passed. So one of the things they ticked through, it didn't include the flexible county funding that we were hoping for, but it did include some more targeted funds. And they mentioned rental assistance. And they actually mentioned some changing thresholds to where before, because we were under 500,000, we kind of had to have our money routed through the state. And now I think that threshold is lowered. So we may get this money in a more direct way targeted toward rental assistance. I'm just throwing it out there in case if you know anything about it, I'd be happy to hear it. If you hadn't heard that, or if you and Tom are tracking that, obviously that'd be something to keep a close eye on, exactly how that's going to work. Because that's kind of the first details that I'd heard happened right before the holidays, and there hadn't been any WASAC meetings. So that was kind of my overview of what's coming potentially.
Yes, I'm aware. I was on a call yesterday with the National Low Income Housing Coalition, and they had mentioned that and an overview of the funds that are coming through, as well as some excellent resources, one-pagers on what that looks like. And so I'm happy to share those. I haven't had a chance to read through them, honestly. I do have them available, though, if you're curious and would like to look at them.
Okay, well, just making, Mr. Ramiro.
Yeah, maybe I can elaborate on that. And I do have a comment also to Kelly. You're correct, Commissioner Minzer. Yesterday at the WASAC meeting, the National Association of County Representatives stated that the $507 million is coming to Washington State as a result of the recent COVID-19 relief fund approved by the Congress. And also the threshold, they changed from the 500,000 population to the 200,000 population. So in this case, Thurston County will be eligible to access directly, I believe, a portion of the $507 million. So that is a moving target, I believe, as to how that is going to be distributed. But certainly additional money will be coming to the county. We could continue to support the needs of rental assistance. Also, and going back to your report, Keely, you were reporting on the ERAP program, which is about $3.2 million, and they would receive as a grant. But I believe the Community Action Council, who is helping us manage the rental assistance, as a result of the board making some decisions on the coronavirus relief fund, we allocated at more than just the $3.2 million. So the rental assistance in help to the citizens in need goes beyond the $3.2 million. I believe it was close to $4.9 million if we add the additional coronavirus relief fund the board approved last year. So I just, want to globalize that report because it's more the Community Action Council is going to do. And in fact, we have an item on the agenda later on today related as to how we could, the board could consider continue to support that until we can build a bridge for the new federal funding that we just discussed.
Thank you for that.
Okay, thank you, Keely and Tom, for that report. And with nothing more on that, we'll move on to topic 3, which is flooding update. We've got Kurt Harden here from Emergency Management. Ramiro, anything to frame this, or should I turn this to Kurt?
No, I wanted to, over the weekend, as you know, we received a lot of rain, and in fact, in the Olympia area, we broke a record, I believe, on Saturday in terms of the rainfall. And over the weekend, Kurt Harden and his staff went through and started managing some of the potential flooding areas. And I'd asked them to come over this morning to give you an overview of some of the response or some of the actions they have taken. And after he's done, I have a short report from Public Works, because Public Works also provided some related activities in response to the flooding. Kurt?
Okay. Good morning, Commissioners. Kurt Harden, Director of Emergency Services. And I was hoping that my first meeting with you in 2021 would not be about an emergency or flooding or COVID, but unfortunately, that was not to be. So over the weekend, if you went to bed Saturday night looking at all the river gauges and thinking we were okay in Thurston County, you were correct. If you woke up Sunday morning and wondered what happened, you were probably correct as well, because that's what we did in emergency services and emergency management. So overnight on Saturday night, the National Weather Service updated most of their river models. And what ended up happening was we had flooding occur in 2 locations, or 2 rivers, I should say, in Thurston County. So the Chehalis River near Grand Mound is currently at minor flood stage, and it's slowly receding. Projections show it will drop to below flood stage tomorrow morning, Wednesday morning on January 6th. The Skookumchuck River near Bucota reached moderate flood stage over the weekend, and it's since dropped below flood stage on Monday morning. At this time, no additional flooding is forecasted for the rest of the week for the Skookumchuck River, and no other rivers reached flood stage. The discharge rate at LeGrand Dam, I know that's a concern, especially for residents in the Squally River area. We immediately reached out to the Tacoma Power and talked with them about the discharge rate at the LeGrand Dam. The staff at Tacoma Power assured us that the discharge rate was going to remain approximately 2,400 cubic feet per second. Now, Tacoma Power is required to notify Thurston County if the discharge rate reaches 5,000 cubic feet per second as an action item. So that it's still less than half of their reporting level to report to Thurston County. So we're feeling fairly comfortable with the LeGrand Dam and then the Squally River at this point. Emergency management staff over the weekend reached out to the Chehalis tribe and the town of Pecota. We did not receive any requests for assistance. We disseminated information on the flooding situation through social media and TC Alert for the residents in the county. And then we also do not have any reports of homes or residents impacted by the flooding, but we did receive Monday morning, requests for sandbags, 500 sandbags from West Thurston Regional Fire Authority. And then we had one individual swing by Public Works and pick up sandbags there individually. Our current forecast is we're in a lull between disturbances, and that this morning we're going to dry out for a short period of time. Our next weather disturbance will move in quickly, though, this afternoon. Rain's going to start fairly light and sporadic at first and then increasing in intensity. We'll see the rain peak Tuesday evening, gradually decreasing the second half of the night and ending late tonight. As far as the region, we enter a day-long break on Thursday, and after all the lingering shower activity ends on Wednesday evening. The next weather system that swings in and out will be on Friday morning, and then we're back into an active, wet, and breezy weather Saturday and Sunday, persisting through much of next week. So we'll continue to monitor the situation, but at the same time, this past weekend was a little more intense than normal. I would characterize the rest of the week as a typical winter weather for the Pacific Northwest. And then subject to your questions, that's my report.
Questions for Kurt? I'll start with Commissioner Mejia.
I do not have any questions at this time. Thank you.
Commissioner Edwards?
Yes. As far as it goes with the reservoir level up at Alder Lake, are you satisfied that that's not rising too fast? I mean, obviously the people in the valley are very concerned about this. And the claim from some of the citizens was that the river is up quite high right now from what they thought maybe it should be, almost acting like it did last year when we had that flood. Yeah. Right. Are you confident that we're okay on this?
So I'm confident for the next several days, and that's all I can do is project out 48 to 72 hours. However, we do have a meeting already scheduled with Tacoma Power this week to talk about those concerns and address those concerns with Tacoma Power. But currently with their discharge rate just below 2,400 cubic feet per second, which is, again, less than half of their threshold to have to notify the county of 5,000 cubic feet per second. I'm fairly confident right now. I will give you a further update on our talks and discussions with Tacoma Power after they take place this week.
Okay, thank you.
Kurt, the 500 sandbags for West Thurston, are those just, is that them preparing, or are they going to be deploying those somewhere? Is there
those sandbags are for delivery, and I'd have to refer to Public Works. I believe they were delivered or in the process of being delivered, and that was for the area of Scott Lake. And so West Thurston had received that request. And typically what we do for sandbag distribution is we stage sandbags at the various fire stations around Thurston County. So when West Thurston, we're putting the sandbags at a fire station, and then the public swings by to pick up the sandbags as necessary.
Okay. Very good. Ramiro, anything for Kurt?
No, just that I think Kurt clarified the sandbags because the county does not deliver sandbags to private property owners. We made an attempt to deliver to fire stations strategically across the county, so citizens who are in need of sandbags, they can access either at the fire stations as well as the Tele campus of Public Works. So in addition to what Kurt stated, Public Works reported that we have 4 sections of roadways that continue to be portions closed due to high water. That will be a Case Road, 110th Avenue Southwest, Moon Road Southwest, and Independence Road Southwest. We also have 9 locations on the southwest area of the county. They have been posted as a water over the roadway, but we have not closed those. Staff from Public Works is monitoring the bridges on the Black Lake and the Chehalis River, and those have prone to have debris accumulated under their structure, and they're monitoring that situation as well. The high winds that included over the weekend included many down trees, which damaged portions of some guide rails. They're in the process of being replaced. And also, they're monitoring some prone areas for landslides in the county. So that's the report from Public Works that I have as a result of the weekend storm.
Any questions for Amiro on Public Works?
No, sir.
Amiro, I didn't catch the, you said, I want to say Black Lake, where you said there that debris tends to collect. Can you?
Yeah, at a Black Lake and the Chehalis River, both on those 2 bridges. When there's a high storms, there's a lot of debris that comes down the river, and they tend to accumulate on the piers of the bridge, on the structure itself. So in the past, when that situation becomes difficult, we have used equipment to remove that debris and release that log jam, because that can certainly affect the structure of the bridge itself. But at this point, there's some debris come down, but no accumulation as far as I understand.
Okay, thank you, Kurt. Good work. I appreciate that update. That moves us to item 4, which is a review of this afternoon's Board of County Commissioners agenda. I believe it's an abbreviated meeting that's planned for this afternoon, but we will call the meeting to order at 2 p.m. We'll have the Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Commissioner Edwards. Approval, I'll call for approval of the agenda for today, and board meeting minutes from December 15th and 18th. The public will have the opportunity to address the board, and this will be, just to remind the public, since we're in a closed doors, this will be how this be handled, County Manager.
Yeah, the members of the public have 2 options to provide public testimony to the board this afternoon. One is via Zoom. I will encourage for those individuals who would like to provide testimony via Zoom to log into the county's website and register. And that way we're able to manage the public testimony. Also, the public has the option to provide public testimony via conference call. And again, the phone number for that is 360-252-9020, and the PIN number is 1234.
Okay, so the same mechanisms by which they could join this meeting basically are going to function for public comment at 2 p.m.
Yes, the only difference is in this meeting we don't allow the public to access. They just virtually following this meeting. This afternoon we will allow for them to join the Zoom meeting for them to provide public testimony.
Okay, well, I would point out that on the agenda for the work session, it says at the top, join by Zoom or join by phone. So it sounds like maybe that's not accurate and that should be removed from this particular.
Yeah, thank you.
Because yeah, folks might be trying to join by Zoom thing and for this. Okay, that will take the county manager's update, which is item 2 on this afternoon's agenda. Is there anything there that we need to be previewed, county manager?
No, that's the time there where I follow up with public testimony or public feedback. But I will be addressing later on today's agenda an email that you received from a citizen. So I will not be addressing any public testimony this afternoon.
Okay, any questions for county manager on that?
I guess, yes, I have a question, sir. And that is, we did get a comment from a citizen reference what we're the meeting we're having today, apparently. And then there's an attachment with that email that came through my system. It talks about Chapter 3, Washington State Open Public Meetings Act. I'm curious, is what's displayed there as part of that email, is that something that's taken right out of our legal RCW is here, or is that something the citizen put together and sent in? I guess I would ask the county manager that.
Yeah, my take on that, Commissioner, is the citizen put that together and sent that to the Board of County Commissioners.
Okay, I guess being Elizabeth is here, before we move on, sir, could I at least ask Elizabeth as our legal counsel if we are 100% legal here today now, because apparently something didn't get noticed properly? I just want to make sure that we're covered, because it ends up being the responsibility of the elected county commissioners that are held accountable.
So certainly, Commissioner, just to clarify, we have properly noticed this meeting. So there is not any gaps in noticing this meeting.
And I
Well,
guess,
I'd like to, with all the respect, I'd like to clarify that, because there is no gaps in noticing this meeting.
okay, I suppose there's always differences of opinions. I know we've got a couple of attorneys on the screen there, and anytime you have more than two, you got a couple different opinions sometime. All I'm asking is that our legal counsel assure us as the elected county commissioners that we're okay here. That's what I'd like to hear.
Elizabeth?
Good morning, commissioners. Yes, I concur with Romero's statement that we are in compliance with the OPMA and our county code. If you would like any further details, I would request that we go into executive session.
Okay, no, I'm fine with that. Thank you very much, counsel.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Okay, that takes us to what's on the agenda as item 3 under county manager, item 3A. So there is no reason I'm hesitating. Usually there's a consent agenda. We don't have consent items today. So we'll go right into 3A, which is 2021 election of officers for the Board of County Commissioners, Board of Health, and Transportation Benefit District.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. This is just for you to confirm some of the decisions you will be making later this morning in terms of the commissioner assignments for chair, vice chair of the different boards and commissions, as well as your individual assignments for the many different boards and commissions that you represent the county on outside of the county. And the items that you have this afternoon is just to formally confirm those assignments. You will see on the draft agenda they have XXX, because we don't know how the board is going to be deciding later on today on those assignments. And also item 3B is the external boards and commissions that you represent the county, and that will be individual commissions that will be assigned. Attached in your packet is a draft proposal of the many different boards and commissions assignments, and that will be the basis of your discussion later today. And that will be a very short meeting this afternoon.
Any questions on 3A or 3B?
No, sir.
No.
Okay, and then items C, D, and E are essentially kind of standing items for a 2 p.m. meeting, where if we want to, we can report on any work sessions or community events that we've attended. County manager usually walks through, for 3D, we'll walk through our combined schedule, the things where 2 or more commissioners will be present for the next upcoming week. And then we adjourn. So letting the public know that this is going to be a very abbreviated meeting this afternoon, really just addressing the formalization of the board assignments and positions of officers. So it'll be an unusual meeting, and the discussion on those items will happen later this morning. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned. Next, we move to item 5 on the work session agenda, which is a review of next week's Board of County Commissioners meeting. And again, starting the year, we have a new commissioner. This is kind of how the Tuesday 9 a.m. Agenda settings are structured, where we look at, we re-review, usually for the second time, the agenda that's slated for that very afternoon. And then we look item by item at the next week's agenda, item by item. And then we'll do that again next week. So each agenda usually has been reviewed twice, sometimes more because we'll delay it. We're not ready to take action on it for whatever reason, but that's usually the process. So now we're going to be looking at Tuesday, January 12th. It would be called to order at 2 p.m. Looks like we have a public hearing set for 3 p.m. that we'll discuss at the end of this. At 2 p.m., the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Commissioner Mejia. We'll have presumably an approval of the agenda for that day's meeting and review board meeting minutes from December 15th. Again, the structure of these meetings is fairly prescribed. The next item is, sometimes we have presentations, proclamations, which usually slot here. It doesn't look like we have that for the January 12th. So we move to opportunity for the public to address the board. I don't know that
I don't see anything at this point, Commissioner.
Yeah. If anybody, and again, when we tick through this at the work session, if anybody has gotten a heads up that we're going to get a public comment, we usually give everybody the heads up on that. So if Commissioner Mejia, if you hear that, 15 people are going to be marching in to talk about, racial equity, or something that, that you get wind of that you want to share with the rest of us, just let us know. That can sometimes be useful. We all kind of do the same, and the county manager gives us a heads up as well. Then county manager update is item 2. Again, this is a standing item where the county manager may provide some response to citizen testimony or sometimes emails or letters that we've received in previous meetings. Obviously, this is we don't know what might be testified to today. And Ramiro, I don't imagine you have anything lined up for that particular slot at this point.
Nothing is pending, Commissioner.
Okay. Then a typical meeting is consent items at under number 3. We don't have that today, but we certainly do have a number of them for next week. Consent items will be basically approved as a slate. So if there's any concern about not wanting that item handled in that way, then that's what we talk about today or next week. So the first item is 3A. It's under emergency services. Description is private ambulance license renewal. Kurt is still here, so I will let county manager preview this item for us.
Right. Thank you, Commissioner. This is a yearly request under Thurston County Code Chapter 6 requires the ambulances who provide services in Thurston County renew their licenses on an annual basis. This item for your consideration is for you to consider renew the licensees, operating licenses for the Olympic and the AMR ambulance companies they operate in Thurston County. The application alone is $100 per application. That's the fee. That's a bargain, at least from my point of view. As you may recall, the board increased that from $50 to $100 a couple of years ago. But it's still, I don't believe it covers the cost, but it is what it is at this point. So, and this particular renewal of the licenses have been reviewed by a subcommittee of the Emergency Management Council, and they have provided a recommendation for you to consider approval of those 2 renewals. Kurt is here. Have any questions?
Kurt, do you have anything that we should know in addition to that?
Only that this is a annual renewal process. This is routine, and this was happened in the last year and et cetera. So I anticipate the same will happen next year. So this is just routine process.
Any questions for Kurt on this, Commissioner Mejia?
No, thank you.
Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Kurt. 3B, Central Services, Information Technology, Department reclassifying position 38R01339.
Thank you, Commissioner, for your consideration is reclassification of a position in IT, information technology, from a business application technician to a business application analyst. This is currently a vacant position it was embedded in Superior Court, and since this position has become vacant, there is always a good practice from, at least from my point of view, when a position becomes vacant to assess the business needs as to how we can enhance that particular position to provide better services. As a result of this, in cooperation with Superior Court, this reclassification really meets the needs of Superior Court in terms of software and hardware support at the court, all the courts, including the audio and visual systems. This particular item will increase the salary from $6,325 per month to $7,687 per month. That will be an increase of $1,362 a month, or 22% increase. The department is not asking for an additional increase on their budget, and this will be covered by the current allocation and through salary savings and so on and so forth. So, any questions?
Before I turn to commissioners, we have Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell, who's still, I believe, working as our interim central services leader. Or is that, you're nodding, did I get that right? You're muted.
You're muted.
Okay. I do believe I'm the permanent director of central services.
Okay. Well, all the more reason to turn this to you, and just if you wanted to add anything to Ramiro's summary of this item.
No, I think you did a fine job.
Okay, questions for Robin or Ramiro from Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
Commissioner Mejia?
I do have a question in regards to this position. So will this position report directly to our IT department, or will they report directly to Superior Court?
The model that we have right now is an embedded position, so it will be assigned to Superior Court, but structurally will continue to report to IT.
Thank you.
And that's the similar model they were planning to implement on the new position the board approved as part of the 2021 budget with, I believe, District Court.
Okay. I don't think I have anything on that item, so I'll move forward. Hearing nothing further. 3C. The treasurer item, description is sale of tax title property via private negotiation to Gabrielle Sandelius.
Yeah, let me take some time just to give a little bit of background related to tax title properties.
I was going to ask you to do that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Tax title properties become in the custody of Thurston County when the particular citizen, the owner, faults in their property taxes. When the citizens or companies fault in paying their property taxes, then those become as part of the custody of the Thurston County. And I keep using the word custody because Thurston County do not own those properties. We held in custody for the benefit of the citizens of Thurston County. So there's a couple methods in which any tax title property can be disposed. One is a foreclosure action. If that fails, then moves forward to private negotiation. 3 years ago, the board delegated that authority to the county treasurer to have a systematic way to dispose of those tax title properties that eventually will come into the tax roll and will be a benefit to the county itself. So I have to applaud the county treasurer because he has been very diligent and going through all the majority of the tax title properties and making sure that who goes through this process. So in this particular property, this became the custody to the county back in 1937, I believe. And this is a 4-acre parcel. 40% of this parcel is encumbered by a wetland. And also this parcel is landlocked. So as a result, there is no access, and this property has been considered unbuildable. The only benefit the property can probably have is to the adjacent property owner, which is that's the direct negotiations the county treasurer is planning to do. So this property went through the foreclosure action, which we received no bidders. And as a result, then is the RCW 3635-120, 3635-130, and 3635-150 allows for the private negotiations after no bids are received on the public foreclosure action. I mentioned to you the parcel is size 4 acres, is considered to be unbuildable. The value of this property is $3,000 with fees and everything else. The proposed selling price is $3,264. In the past, the board has requested what is the impact on the property taxes to the county. In this particular case, on the overall taxes based on the assessed value of this property, to the county's general fund is $53.90 a year. So with that, the county treasurer is requesting the board to authorize the private sale of this particular parcel with the, I can't remember the name of the individual, but.
Gabriel Sandelius.
Yep, thank you, with Mr. Gabriel Sandelius, which is the adjacent property owner of this parcel. This parcel is located, I failed to say that, is 17330 Russian Hill, Southwest. That is just about southeast of Rainier, the town of Rainier. Southwest, yeah, southeast. Any questions on this?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Commissioner Edwards.
As a general rule, we have a attached map, and that lays it out. There's a few, maybe there's a photograph, or at least the location is laid out for commissioners to observe what is taking place, because oftentimes there will be questions that come from the public. How come you did this or that? And it helps the individual commissioners, at least in my case, I'll refer to myself, to respond to those kind of questions. So normally we have that in the packet. I just didn't see it in mine, but maybe it was left out.
Yeah, you are correct, Commissioner. I will distribute the map as well as the spreadsheet, including the size of the parcel and the proposed sale price for you to review.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Mejia, anything on this item?
No, sir.
Okay. I do not either. So we'll move to, I'm going to handle the next 4 items in one package. They're the auditor's voucher lists. Usually we do this week by week, but because of the holidays, we've got a stack of warrant reports where the commissioners receive basically a packet of listing out of the different payments made. And we look at those and we have opportunity to ask questions. So I'm going to just kind of globally say, are there any questions commissioners would like addressed from these particular sets that we're going to be approving next Tuesday afternoon? County Manager has his hand up.
Maybe a procedural for your consideration, Commissioner Menser. Considering the Commissioner Mejia was not part of this review of the vouchers this past December. Maybe we can bring those into actual items on the agenda for you to, maybe Commissioner Menser, Commissioner Edwards can exercise your vote, and maybe Commissioner Mejia could recuse herself from voting, because on the consent agenda, you approved that as a global item. Since those are here, that will be my suggestion to you.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. And we usually have to do that with certain board minutes, you
Right,
know,
and
that
yeah.
he didn't attend the meetings. So I don't know if that's going to affect, yeah, like for example, but that's a separate item. But you're right. On the consent agenda, we'd put her in a position where she couldn't vote on any of the items. So
Right.
we'll remove those. You're certainly welcome to look at them and ask questions about them if you have them. There's no limitation there. Robin, did you have something there?
I was just going to suggest, if you're going to pull them off into a separate item, you might want to condense them into a single item unless commissioners have questions about any one.
Yeah, we'll combine into a single item.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great procedurally suggestion. Thank you. Is there any questions that commissioners would like to have addressed at today's work session on any item that they've seen?
No, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Then we'll move to department items. Number 4, Central Services, bid award for number 25607, Thurston County Corrections Facility Recreation Yard.
Yeah, Commissioners, for your consideration is to award a contract to J.A. Morris Construction of Olympia, Washington, to provide some improvements to the Thurston County Jail, particularly related to creating a recreation yard. This project will provide for a new outdoor exercise holding cell at Thurston County Jail located within the existing Sally Port. Work will include new footings and installation of a new prefabricated mesh holding cell consisting of 2 walls, a gate, a mesh ceiling, metal roof, flashing lighting, and audiovisual components to monitor and control the inmates. I believe, as you may recall, we had an issue in providing recreational to the female inmates at the jail, and this will provide, I believe, the option to have outside recreation to the female inmates at the jail. On December 21st, the county received 3 bids, and the apparent low bidder is, again, J.A. Morris Construction, LLC of Olympia, Washington, with a low bid of $75,500, including an additive of additional work. Adding all the sales tax and a 10% contingency, that brings to $90,856.70. Michael Crow is here to answer any questions related to this proposal.
Any questions, Commissioner Mejia?
I'll pass right now, but I would like to hear more about this project. I'll pass it on to Commissioner Edwards as I wrap my head around this.
Okay, very good. Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir. I'm good.
Okay. I don't think I have any questions. This is kind of a follow-up from an item, and Commissioner Mejia, feel free to ask whatever background questions you think is right, because this is kind of a follow-up of a process that got kind of going. I'm not exactly when the board made that vote, but it was somewhere in the second half of 2020, I believe. But why don't you go ahead and ask whatever you feel is relevant.
Yeah, so yeah, that's basically what I would like to know is the background of this project. And Ramiro, could you give me a little bit more on that, please?
Yeah, and maybe I can answer that in terms of the process, as Commissioner Minster stated. Any project that needs to be worked or we're planning to work needs to be included on the capital facilities plan. And the capital facilities plan is approved on a yearly basis by the Board of County Commissioners after holding a public hearing. And having that document in place allows the staff to continue moving forward. There are some instances in which we require the services of a consultant to provide the design services and develop the bid documents, the construction documents. So staff comes and asks the board to authorize awarding the contract to a consultant to help us go through this process of designing and providing the bid documents. In this case, this was approved, I believe, in early 2020 to move forward with the design and the bidding documents. And then the next step in the process, when that is completed, we go out to bid. In any public works, meaning not just the Department of Public Works, what we call a public works project, when the local agency does any type of improvements, by law, we need to award to the low bidder. And in this case, as long as the low bidder meets the required specifications of this contract, then we go through and award that. Before the award can happen, the board needs to take an action, and this is the action that you're considering next week, is to award the contract to the low bidder. Following up to the process, after that construction is completed, there is a lot of steps the staff goes through just to make sure they have met all the requirements of the contract, building the infrastructure is in place. We go through the checklist items, and at some point, you will consider the staff will come back to the board for the board to consider closing the contract. That is in a high-level approach of the process itself. Maybe I can ask Michael to provide a little more technical details of the project itself. Robin.
Yeah, Michael Crowe, Central Services.
Robin had a question first.
Oh, sure.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Michael. Just a little more background on this particular project. The reason that we're proceeding in doing a recreation yard at Corrections at this time is in response to the need for appropriate recreation space for our female inmates. And that was brought to the board's attention about a year ago, maybe a little over a year ago. And we thought that this would be a simple project, but it turned out to be more complicated than we had thought it would. So it's taken a while to get it in place.
Thank you, Robin. Michael, did you have something to add in here about the project itself?
The project itself is as it says in the AIS, it's in the Sallyport. It is. I worked with Lieutenant Duvetter of Corrections all the way through this, and Todd Toma, and the stakeholders are fully informed and actually excited about getting moving on the project.
Could I comment?
Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner Edwards.
No, I guess I would say Robin kind of touched on it, but it's a fairness issue, and also it alleviates our exposure on litigation.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'll take it even one step back further in case it's helpful. That I think this, the flex unit discussions that the board has had over the last couple of years, the project was preliminarily moved forward, and then it was with COVID, we paused the project, and in the meantime, that created even a greater need for us to make better use of the space that we have to meet the needs of the various populations. This has been an ongoing, there's an argument about the flex unit, but one of the things I think everybody agrees is that the high proportion of mental health issues in the jail have sort of forced some of the space issues in a way in the last couple of years, and have created concerns. The litigation that was referred to by Commissioner Edwards, the just wanting to meet the basic needs. So this is kind of a stopgap, if you will, in terms of trying to use space the best we can that we have while we think through the long-term plans for the jail. Okay, anything else on that?
No, sir. Thank you.
Very good. We'll go to, thank you, Michael and Robin. Item 5, community planning and economic development. Description of the item is contract amendment with TRPC, the Thurston Regional Planning Council. We've got Jeremy Davis, and I will turn this to County Manager for framing.
Maybe I'm going to use that. Let me take you back just to provide a background as to what this item is. In maybe 3 years ago, the clerk services for the boundary review board was done by staff. In fact, Jeremy Davis was the one who provided that. So the boundary review board is a board that reviews all the proposed annexations in the county, mainly annexations by the cities. Within that context, there is a lot of steps, procedural steps that we need to go through, and there are many different methods as to how a city can request an annexation to annex portions of the unincorporated areas of the county. This has been a long process. The board has been involved in many requests for annexations. And in fact, maybe 3 years ago, we had started having this conversation as to how some jurisdictions, maybe probably my words, can probably pick only specific areas of the county they have tax revenues. Within that context, we approached the legislature in passing a bill, and in fact, it passed in 2020, where allows the jurisdictions involved in that particular annexation to get into a local agreement to determine what the impacts, the financial impacts to the jurisdiction who is losing those, the area, and also having a conversation as to how we can probably mitigate those impacts. This has been proven to be extremely helpful. But we needed to have somebody who can provide that management of the many different proposed annexations that comes on a yearly basis. And since Jeremy changed jobs, and I believe at some point the discussion was whether the county staff can really provide that unbiased assessment of a proposed annexation really created an issue. So as we go through and always trying to improve the county business, we approached the Thurston Regional Planning Council to see if they can provide the unbiased assessment within the proposed annexation, and we become part of that party review as long as the petitioner of that particular annexation. This has been proven very helpful, I believe, and very streamlined the process in the last 2-3 years. As a result of that, on a yearly basis, we need to sign that contract with the TRPC to provide those services. That contract has not changed for the last couple of years, I believe. It's $20,000, and the proposal today is to continue with the contract, amending the contract for 2021, and that includes the $20,000. There's no additional cost at this point. That seems to be adequate. I believe 2 years ago, we had to amend the contract because we received many annexations, and that's also an option as to how we're going to be balancing the needs of providing the services to the boundary review board. That is the larger overview of this, and I don't know if Jeremy would like to add anything related to what I just stated.
Thank you, County Manager Chavez and Commissioners. Good morning, Jeremy Davis. Community Planning, Economic Development. Yes, I was the Boundary Review Board Chief Clerk up until 2018. And I do want to add that last year was a lower year for utilization of our budget with them, and they used approximately $6,000. We're still waiting for the final December bill on that because we had fewer annexations, but typically we will run up to about $20,000 annually. The current proposed $20,000 will cover about 180 to 200 staff hours at TRPC. Should they come close to exhausting that, like say we get a lot of annexations this year, when they reach a 70% utilization of that budget, they're required to inform the county of where they're at in their budget and their expected needs for the remainder of the year. So we will hear earlier if they actually should start running out of that amount. And we'll get notice of that and talk to Assistant County Manager Campbell about that budget and bring it back to you. And if you have any questions on the Boundary Review Board itself and how it works, I'm more than happy to answer any of those questions for you.
I seem to remember at my first meeting in 2019, there was an extended item regarding the Boundary Review Board, and my head was spinning. So, Commissioner Mejia, I'll let you have the first crack at any questions.
I don't have any questions at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
Okay. I don't think I do either. This process seems to be working. So with that, I think we're good. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you, commissioners. Have a great morning.
That moves us to number 6. I have noticed that we do have our county health officer and public health director, and I'll let you guys know we're close to wrapping up this agenda. So we're going to finish that, and then we'll jump back to your items. Thank you for joining us. This item, though, does fall under Public Health and Social Services, and it's contract to Community Action Council of Lewis, Mason, and Thurston counties for rental assistance. Tom Webster's here. I'll turn this to Ramiro.
Commissioner, this is an item, a placeholder, depending on the conversation the board is going to have on the agenda that I have later on for you today. And this is related to the House Bill 1406 as we know it. So if with your concurrence, if we can delay describing this item, because when on the additional information later in the discussion, we'll make it clear. And again, this is just a placeholder, depending on how the board would like to move on the proposal the staff has related to the $1406.
And that's under Commissioner items number 2?
Yeah, that is correct, sir.
Okay, very good. We will delay the discussion of this item, which takes us to number 7, the last department item for the 12th of January, Public Works, setting a public hearing for a resolution. Yes, set a public hearing for a resolution to amend the 2021 to 2026 Transportation Improvement Program, or TIP, as we call it. Matt Unsel here.
Thank you, Commissioner. As anything else, you know, the county business evolves on a daily basis, and this is just a key example of that. The board approved the 2021-2026 Transportation Improvement Program, TIP, this past December 18 as part of the overall budget approval. Since we realized that we just received a grant from the County Road Administration Board to provide improvements along 183rd Avenue Southwest from US 12 to Old Highway 99. So in order for us to be eligible to have access to the grant and start working on those improvements, this project needs to be included on the Transportation Improvement Program. And the sense of urgency is critical at this point. For your considerations for you to hold a public hearing, because before the board can exercise its legislative authority to amend the TIP, you need to hold a public hearing. And in this case, the proposal is to have the public hearing on January 26th, because the County Road Administration Board is going to be meeting 2 days later to consider formalizing the grant allocations for many projects across the state. That is a little bit of a nuance in terms of the timing and how this is coming to your attention. And again, for your considerations for you to set a public hearing, waiving the 20-day public hearing notice, because the 20-day public hearing notice is codified in the county, but under statute, we can go with a 10-day public notice. And that is the action for your consideration next week. Matt Elselman is here to answer any questions or perhaps adding any additional information that I missed.
Yes. Happy New Year, Commissioners. Nice to virtually meet you, Commissioner Mejia. Just to give you a little bit of background on this project, the project is on 183rd and extends from US 12 to Sargent Road down in the Grand Mound area. And what the project will do is, currently the roadway is very narrow. It has no to minimal width shoulders. And so what this project will do will be upgrading the road to current design standards to have 5 to 6 foot shoulders and illumination to address some collision patterns that have been occurring on the stretch of roadway. As Ramiro said, this project was included on the TIP, but it was included 183rd was listed all the way from extending from US 12 at the west end all the way to Old Highway 99 at the east end, which is a 5-mile long project. Because there's no funding opportunities available to fund that large of a project, what Public Works has to do is break these projects into smaller projects. And so that's why we took a 5-mile project and broke it into phase 1 of this 5-mile project will be 183rd extending from US 12 to Sargent Road, which is a couple-mile project, which is more manageable with the funding that we have available. This is simply making sure that the project that we applied for matches up with what the project is listed in the DIP.
Do you know the amount of the grant they're going to be receiving by this action, Matt?
$2.2 million.
Thank you. It requires a match, correct?
That is correct. There's a 10% match.
Any questions for Matt on this, Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, I remember the discussion we had some time back about doing that whole project, and my concern is if this is a time-sensitive issue, would we be better off to make an adjustment to set that public hearing earlier by putting it on our agenda for today to set that hearing? It's just a question. I know this is kind of a formality, but if it jeopardizes the funding in any way, I'd certainly like to make sure we get that funding locked in.
I'll defer to the county manager on that.
Certainly, that is within your purview. And again, we're going to be respectful to give you a week to weigh in the items. But certainly, if the board agrees, we can bring this item this afternoon, and you can potentially take an action and send the public hearing.
I don't want to rush our new commissioner, but it seems to me we've had all the discussions that led up to this and did all the legalities and discussions earlier. Obviously, our new commissioner was not here. But so this is just kind of a technical issue is the way I'm looking at it. If I'm wrong, please say so.
Do you have any questions?
No, I'll be preparing for it this afternoon. I agree. If there's deadlines for it, let's go ahead and add it.
Does it save any trouble? I mean, if we today would make 20 days to keep it, would there be any advantage to moving it up a week, or would it just, or there be an advantage to having the full 20 days and not having to waive the 20-day requirement?
Yeah, if the board considers taking an action this afternoon, then we'll remove the first item because you don't need to waive the 20-day. Then it will be normal timing.
Okay, well, that's fine if that's more useful. It'll still be a public hearing on the same day, which is 2 days before the crowd meets.
Yeah. So, and just to a caveat to this amendment, the state law requires that any amendment for the transportation improvement program has to be a unanimous vote. So I just want to put that in front of you. So depending on the public testimony you may receive, if there is not a unanimous vote, this amendment will not move forward.
Chair or Vice Chair, can I comment on that?
Yes.
I just think, here we are pressing right up against the trying to approve something prior to the crab board having a meeting within a couple of days. I'm just trying to give us some leeway because it seems like things always don't work out the way we intended. So I'm prepared to move on it if that's what we need. I mean, so it is just a formality.
So let me see if I can clarify your suggestion, Commissioner Edwards. Bring this item for your consideration this afternoon, but it's still holding the public hearing on January 26th?
Well, to be honest with you, I'd rather have the hearing a week earlier and waive the 20 days and try and get it done. So if there's any questions, I just don't want to jeopardize that type of funding for that project because I know it's of great concern to the citizens down there.
What are the logistics, Matt, if the board will have moved this public hearing a week prior?
I don't see any issues with it. We're just be able to get the information to crowd it up sooner.
That will mean they will have to publish the notices tomorrow. Amy, is that adequate? So yes, so we'll bring this item this afternoon, including the waiving the 20-day public comment, to set the public hearing for January 19th.
And then Matt, my question is so you're breaking the 5 Mile project, and then you're identifying a phase that then the funding will match to, but then the remaining portions of the 5 Mile project stays on the tip and could potentially be funded. Is that?
That's correct. And so, and we've done this on lots of roads throughout the county, and like on a Vale Road or a Delphi Road, or these roads are 7, 8, even more than 10 miles long. So we just don't have the funding to do the entire project at one time. So we have to break them into smaller portions.
Okay. Okay, great. Well, it sounds like we're agreed on that. We will set the hearing for the 19th. Thank you.
And one more logistical clarification. January 19th, obviously is a Tuesday, and that is after the holiday, and the Board of County Commissioners meeting was going to be canceled. But certainly we can have a public hearing. The two of them are not together. So let me work to see if we have any items for the 19th to have a Board of County Commissioners meeting. But certainly the public hearing can occur with or without a Board of County Commissioners meeting. So that's a matter of clarification.
Okay, I don't think you need to manufacture a board meeting.
No.
Just because we're doing the public hearing. If we can do the
the reason that I'm saying this is so there is not an expectation that perhaps we're going to have a Board of County Commissioners meeting.
Okay, well, it's a good reminder. Yeah. Thank you. And I don't know if that affects the notice in terms of whether holidays count.
No, we'll make sure that all the proper notification is in place, and we'll have a public hearing on this item on the 19th, pending approval by the board this afternoon, and it will be held at 3:00.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you, Matt. We'll move on from this item. The rest of the 12th agenda will be those 3 standing items under county manager, which will be the commissioners' reports of any kind, county manager reviewing the combined schedule, and adjournment. So that takes us to, I'm going to finish this agenda before we probably will we'll discuss this. Let's handle this last item, which is page 5 of 5. It's the 3 p.m. public hearing. It's a public health and social services public hearing on fiscal year 2019 HUD Annual Action Plan Amendment 2. That's a mouthful that probably warrants some background explanation from Tom, so for the new commissioner's benefit, and frankly for all of our benefits. But I'm going to turn this to Ramiro to frame this public hearing.
So thank you, Commissioner. This is a public hearing scheduled for January 12, where the board will be receiving public testimony related to the amendments for the fiscal year 2019 Housing and Urban Development HUD Annual Action Plan. In 2020, we received a couple of allocations from the Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, related to the COVID-19 emergency. So you may recall the initial allocation was in the order of maybe $740,000, which at that point the board decided to have how the money is going to be allocated, have a regional conversation, which that occurred, and we ended up amending that plan anyways, the 2019, because the fiscal year ended on September 2020 for the Housing and Urban Development Block Grant. As we were winding down on some of the decisions of the initial allocation from the CDBG coronavirus, it was an additional allocation of $982,247, which we brought this to the board's conversation, and the board made initial decisions. Out of that allocation, $150,000 will be allocated for the Safe Parking Program project. As Keely provided that feedback, that is a portion of the overall $530,000 that the Commissioner Minster stated earlier related to the Safe Parking Program. Also includes an additional food assistance of $232,247. Also includes additional funding for testing and vaccination coordination, and includes an additional support for isolation and quarantine for 2020. So before we can move forward in allocating or exercising the direction provided by the board, you need to hold a public hearing in order to amend the 2019 Housing and Urban Development Plan. So I will stop there, and I will ask Tom to fill in the blanks.
Great, thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. Tom Webster, the manager for the Office of Housing and Homeless Prevention and Public Health and Social Services. So Ramiro gave an excellent summary. One thing I did want to clarify, for the testing and vaccination, we're not adding any additional money. Under the initial allocation of CDBG, we allocated $300,000 for testing. We're amending that activity to allow those funds to also be used for vaccination coordination and planning and distribution. So it's just an amendment to the description of that activity. So in addition to testing, would allow us to pay for vaccination activities. The bulk of it is for $600,000 to support the quarantine and isolation facility that the county operates. And so with that, happy to answer any questions. Jacinta Stelchis is also with us. She manages the CDBG funds. And so happy to answer any questions.
Okay, questions for Tom on this, Commissioner Mejia?
Not at this moment, thank you.
Mr. Edwards?
No, sir.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that background. It's a little bit.
May I add additional information, Commissioner? And this related to the, we stated this is an addition of the Community Development Grant Program, Coronavirus Relief Fund. The county receives an allocation of CDBG monies on the normal basis. And as you may recall, that allocation, the distribution is based on that interlocal agreement that we have with the cities of Lacey, Tumwater, and the county, along with the South County cities. So on a rotation basis, goes the city of Lacey, city of Tumwater, determines how the allocation should be distributed based on the needs of each of those jurisdictions. On the third year, when the county works with the South cities, we go through the same process in determining how the CDBG money, the Community Development Grant Program, should be implemented. So this is just an additional background for Commissioner Mejia. That is not a one-time item from the CDBG. This is an addition, which is related to the Coronavirus Relief Fund, but we have an annual allocation from HUD.
Okay. Thank you. That closes out that agenda. It's 10:25. I'm going to propose we take a 10-minute break at this point. I know we've got Dr. Abdul Malik and Shelley online, but we have several items, the COVID-19 update number 1, and then a review of the Board of Health draft agenda number 6. And I think those two items will take some time. So we'll take 10. We'll reconvene at 10:35. Countdown. Got it.
3, you're on.
Okay, welcome back. We're about halfway through the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners agenda setting work session for Tuesday, January 5th. And we left off, actually, we had skipped agenda item 1. We had left off with item 6, but we're going to go back. We've got our county health officer, Dr. Abdamalik. We've got our county public health director, Shelley Slaughter. So we're going to jump back to item number 1, which is our weekly COVID-19 update. And I'll just go straight to Shelley.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Menzer. Good morning, Commissioners. Welcome, Commissioner Mejia. I'm going to start by providing an overview of our data since it has been a little while since you've heard that. Then we're going to have a brief overview of our Thurston County vaccine status and plans and answer any questions that you have. So we continue to see COVID cases on the rise in Washington State and of course across our country. Washington State has 246,376 confirmed cases of COVID-19 to date since this pandemic began, with 3,482 Washingtonians who have lost their lives to COVID. Here in Thurston County, we stand as of yesterday at 5,004 Thurston County residents that have tested positive for COVID-19 since this pandemic again began last January. So we're almost at an entire year here since we have been in response. 56 Thurston County residents have unfortunately died, with 4 of those deaths occurring in the last week. In this past week, we have had 350 new cases of COVID-19, which puts our current case rate at 237 per 100,000 over a 2-week time period, which is one of the metrics that we look at to determine how much COVID we have happening in our community. 304 people have been hospitalized to date in Thurston County, with 18 new hospitalizations in the last week. Our hospital capacity is stable, but again, like everywhere else in our country and state, hospitalization is a concern and something that we are watching very closely. 91% of our regional hospital beds are full and occupied, with 22% of those, 17% occupied by COVID patients and 22% of ICU beds regionally occupied by people with COVID-19. Our PPE appears stable at this time, although we continue to be concerned and mindful of needing to conserve PPE rations in the future should the supply chain change. In terms of congregate care outbreaks here in Thurston County, we have had 40 occur over the last year, with 6 congregate care outbreaks that we are currently working on, with no new congregate care outbreaks in the last week. So that's good news. In terms of our testing positivity rate, we are at 5.8%. So that has gone down a little bit. However, we continue to watch for a spike associated with the December holiday gatherings. So we will provide more information on that next week. I want to switch gears and provide some information about vaccines, which gives us some hope after sharing this grim data. Tell you a little bit about where we're at, and then Dr. Abdamalik is going to jump in and share some more information. So currently in Thurston County in Washington State, we are in what is called Phase 1A of vaccine distribution. Phase 1A includes high-risk healthcare workers, so those working directly with patients, especially COVID patients. That includes people who vaccinate as well as people who administer testing. It is also for medical first responders, as well as for staff and residents in high-risk congregate care settings, such as long-term care facilities, adult family homes, etc. So that's the phase that we are in right now. To date, here in Thurston County, as of last week, as of December 27th, to be specific, Thurston County facilities that can accept Moderna and Pfizer vaccine have been allocated 4,375 doses. As of last week, according to our immunization information system, which is managed by the State of Washington Department of Health, 1,116 of those doses have been administered to those that qualify for phase 1A. So that's about 25% of our phase 1A as of last week that has been vaccinated. So we have some work to do over these next couple of weeks. Part of our role in public health is to not only approve those allocations. Our health officer, Dr. Abdelmalik, has the responsibility to approve those allocations, and we in Washington State follow the Washington State Department of Health guidance. So at the federal level, the Center for Disease Control has given guidance to states, and in Washington State, there is an advisory committee that has developed criteria that we are following here in Thurston County. So we will be following the Washington State Department of Health guidance as we continue to move through the phases. We expect phase 1B to be announced later this week by Washington State Department of Health, and then we'll be able to share more information about who will be included in the next phase. Another big part of our responsibility at public health is to facilitate access to everyone that wants the vaccine. So until there are additional tools available that are currently in development by Washington State Department of Health, we are in the business of helping to coordinate and facilitate access and connecting those in 1A with providers that have vaccine and issuing vouchers to those that qualify for the vaccine. If there are any providers who are not affiliated with a facility that has received a vaccine allocation, they can go to our Thurston County Public Health website and apply for a voucher. And then they can take that voucher to one of the providers in our community that currently has vaccine. So we're going to continue to be monitoring closely what vaccine capacity and availability we have in our community, and working to ensure that as we go through the phases that all vaccine is equitably distributed and available. We also have a major role in providing information to the public and to providers. We're conducting many stakeholder groups and meetings right now. Lots of communication that'll be coming out in the coming months as we move through the phases, so that people know what to expect about when and where they can get vaccine. And then we will also be directly administering vaccines through our Thurston County Public Health and Social Services Department, along with our partners, as we move into greater mass vaccination planning. So continuing to have mobile outreach, and it'll be a priority for us to reach underserved populations in Thurston County, as well as to help target special groups as we move through the phases, and holding vaccine clinics. So with that, I'm going to pass it to Dr. Abdelmalik to cover anything that I may have missed in that overview, and then I know she has an update to share with you about schools, and then we will answer any questions that you have. Dr. Abdelmalik?
Good morning, commissioners. It is great to be back. New year, new hope. With vaccine on the horizon, I am cautiously optimistic. We currently have 2 available vaccines made by Pfizer and Moderna that are both safe and effective at preventing COVID-19. These are vaccines that have been approved by the FDA, as well as our own Western States Pact. and are currently being used in our county to vaccinate our 1A high-risk providers. These are both mRNA vaccines, which just means that the vaccine itself is a snippet of genetic material that when your body receives it, it makes just one of the proteins of the virus that your body then mounts an immune response to. And this has been found to be safe and effective. So 94% effective approximately for Moderna and 95% effective approximately for Pfizer. Both of these vaccines, to reach maximum efficacy, do require 2 shots several weeks apart. So 3 weeks apart for Pfizer and about 4 weeks apart for Moderna. In terms of vaccine rollout, there is a framework that was developed by the National Academy of Science and Medicine, which is that big overview that you're going to see that involves 4 phases. As we've learned more and looked at the actual, at our actual communities across the country and across the state, we're further narrowing down each who should be vaccinated in each phase, and it's based on in addition to equity, it's based on 2 underlying principles. The first principle is folks who are at high risk of getting COVID-19 through their work and those sorts of exposures, as well as those who are at high risk of having severe outcomes. So, severe illness and potentially death from the disease. So those are kind of the overlying principles behind this phased rollout. At this time, with any vaccine, the CDC watches closely for adverse events and has multiple reporting systems for those adverse events should they occur. At this time, the only absolute contraindication, meaning the only group of folks who absolutely should not take the vaccine, are people who are allergic to any one of the components of the vaccine. And there's one other group of allergies that are an absolute no for receiving the vaccine, and that's polyethylene glycol or polysorbate. This is all on the CDC website, and when you sign up, these are questions that get asked because there's a thorough screening process. Overall, we found this vaccine to be safe. In terms of, there have been a few reports of allergic reactions that the CDC is closely monitoring. However, other than the groups that I mentioned previously, those are kind of the only absolute no's. If somebody has had an allergy to a vaccine in the past, they should talk to their doctor before receiving this one. There isn't cross-reactivity with other food allergies or pollen or some of the other more garden variety allergies. So we're looking really closely at this, and there are protocols in place to ensure that everybody who receives the vaccine is observed for 15 to 30 minutes to make sure that that no allergic reaction occurs. But this has not been a significant problem in our county. It's been a few cases throughout the state and a few cases throughout the country, and the CDC as well as ourselves are monitoring the situation closely. As far as, so we do have, in keeping with this new hope, there has been new guidance released on opening schools. This guidance came out on December 16th. And prior to that, the framework, so really what this changes is low, moderate, and high risk categories for school reopening. Prior to December 16th, the low transmission category was less than 25, medium was and 25 cases per 100,000 population over 14 days. And medium moderate transmission was 25 to 75, and high transmission was greater than 75. The new guidance from the State Department of Health on the 16th recreated these categories. So less than 50 cases per 100,000 over 14 days is considered low transmission for schools. 50 to 350,000, 50 to 350 cases per 100,000 over 14 days is the moderate transmission category, and greater than 350 cases per 100,000 over 14 days is the high transmission category. Today, we are at 237.2 cases per 100,000 over the past 14 days. I am closely following the transmission rates in our county after this holiday season to ensure that we have the capacity to respond, and that we don't end up on the exponential growth curve that we were on in the middle of November, when the governor issued new restrictions and new measures had to be in place to change the trajectory of disease. So we will be looking at closely monitoring our transmission rates, our public health capacity, our hospital capacity, our test positivity rates over the next 3 weeks to ensure that we help and should we stay in this moderate transmission zone, we anticipate bringing our schools into alignment with the State Department of Health and our governor's guidance. We'll be doing this carefully, using a phased-in approach and using the best available guidance. I know that some people will look at this change and ask, what happened? We went from 75 to 350, and so this particular guidance has been informed by the experiences of schools across our state that were open, as well as schools across the country. Looking at the number of outbreaks, the size of the outbreaks, and those affected, and that all went into making this guidance. Additionally, it has been coupled with new guidance on school safety measures, also released by the Department of Health on the same day, regarding cleaning, distancing, masking, and other mitigation efforts. I'd like to remind all of us that really the best way to keep our schools safe and our community safe is by doing all of the things that we've been doing since the beginning, including masking when we're out in public, maintaining 6 feet or more physical distance, staying home when we're sick, getting tested early, and listening to public health instructions should you be called. So there is hope on the horizon, but it rests on all of us, each taking our responsibility seriously. Thank you so much, Commissioner, and I welcome commissioners, and I welcome any questions.
Okay, there was a heck of a lot there, and I know we've got a lot of items, so I want all the commissioners to ask questions that they have, but be mindful of kind of our remaining agenda. I'm going to start with Commissioner Mejia.
Yeah, so you mentioned that 1B, the phase 1B would be announced sometime this week. Is that correct?
Yes.
but we have no idea who that will include as of now.
We expect there to be an announcement by Washington State Department of Health and the governor's office, possibly tomorrow. And at that time, those details will be released and available to the public, and we'll be sharing that.
Perfect. And my second question, we talked a little bit about schools, but do we have any idea where child care centers stand in all of this as well?
So child care centers have, they have their own set of Department of Health guidance, and they have been open throughout the pandemic, and we have been partnering with them when cases show up in those centers to ensure that the safety of everyone is accounted for.
Thank you.
Commissioner Edwards.
Yes, you mentioned that we have about a quarter of our vaccines being used right now. So we've got more to do. It's like a logistical issue, it sounds like to me. But what I'm wondering about, are we going to have to do this every year for this COVID-19, the same as we do right now for the normal flu season? Is this going to be an annual event of this type of flu vaccine push? And I hear the term herd immunity once in a while. I don't know what that has to do with anything, to be honest with you, other than this is a new strain. So is it going to, are we going to need to have shots every year for this one, or are they going to develop a shot that's normally, 45% effective or whatever they end up with on their guess, because it is kind of a guess the way I understand it. So is this something we're going to be living with for a long period of time, and are we going to have to be lined up for shots all the time?
So that's a really good question. I know that we're learning a lot about this particular virus and its frequency of mutation and type of mutation, which are the kind of the critical pieces in determining that. There are a number of scientists and epidemiologists and virologists and physicians that are all looking at that specific issue. I think that at this point we have vaccines that are safe and effective for the strain that is most common here. I know the rest of the world are watching for the other mutations, including the one in the UK, as well as the one that's been found in South Africa, in addition to others, to determine whether or not the vaccine that we have, how effective the vaccine that we have available is against those particular strains. And so, as more information on that comes forward, we'll have a better idea. So a lot of this has to do with the frequency of mutations of the specific proteins that the vaccine helps the body recognize and then prevent infection from. So there's a lot of work to be done. There are a lot of experts working on it, and it's a little bit too early at this point to tell. I would say that herd immunity occurs, I will say that the number has been changing on that a bit. So, but the last numbers that I heard were somewhere in the 70 to 85% category, where 70 to 85% of folks are immune to the virus would be herd immunity. And really, functionally more important than the numbers is that when herd immunity exists, it means that if somebody, by some stroke of luck or exposure gets COVID-19, the folks around them have antibodies and are protected that way. And so that doesn't, so that the disease can't be transmitted, because and that's kind of what herd immunity is. And the other piece of it, by the flip side, is that if somebody can't be vaccinated for any one of those reasons, there's enough folks who have been vaccinated, have immunity, that the chance of the virus entering a community is extremely low.
Okay.
And so that's that piece of it. So we're a ways away from that, but that's definitely our goal, and we're working towards it.
Okay, just a quick follow-up then on the antibody comment that you made. Are we testing for antibodies? And if somebody has had it and they've recovered from it, supposedly they do have antibodies, if they were to donate blood, would they automatically get tested for and notified that they have antibodies, and then those donations of blood could be utilized to help solve this problem as well? I mean, I know a lot of people that thought they had it about this time last year, or even earlier in November and December. I guess I'm curious, how come we're not trying to do more about the antibodies? Because then we wouldn't have to vaccinate, possibly, those individuals that have already had it, because they have some immunity already, following up on what you said about having the antibodies.
So there are a lot of different pieces to that. So first is the duration of antibody protection from natural infection is something that we're still studying and looking at. So right now, when we think about reinfection, the CDC has looked and has determined that once you've had COVID-19, you're protected for about 90 days is when they start to see the drop off in antibody antibody levels after natural infection. For a number of diseases, vaccines induce a stronger immune response even than natural infection, and so that's why we're so hopeful for the vaccine. In terms of donating blood, there are a number of facilities, including, I believe, Northwest Bloodworks, that do test for COVID-19 antibodies. I know I was tested when I donated blood earlier or late last year. And yes, that can be used as convalescent plasma to help folks who've been infected. Another line of treatment has been for monoclonal antibodies that are made in a lab, and those have been approved by the FDA for use in specific cases. But none of these, because they're so transient when you're getting external antibodies, none of these replaces the need for a vaccine based on the knowledge that we have at this time.
Would have they told you that you had the antibodies when you did your donation on the blood donation? Do they tell you that?
Yeah, you get a letter. Mine came about 10 days later that said that I did not have antibodies.
Okay, and then just one quick last thing. Do we have the regular flu anymore? Have you been experiencing flu? I've not known anybody that's come down with the cold or the flu, actually, since we've been washing our hands and masking and such. So is it down to like almost nothing, the regular flu?
So we have seen a significant, so we do only have low levels of influenza in Washington State at this point. That's a small fraction. So influenza-like illness and influenza that's determined by test are at much lower levels than normal. And I have not seen reported influenza deaths.
Okay, thank you, sir. Doctor?
I got some unconnected questions. The first one about the vaccine. I've been hearing about how the rollout of the vaccine has been difficult, and that's even like across Europe. They're having the same problems. I'm not really sure why it's been so much different than what they expected. That wasn't explained in what I was reading and watching. But I guess my question is, these vaccines that require 2 doses, can people feel confident that if they get the first dose, they're going to absolutely, have the second dose delivered on time in the same quantity? Or is the system so gummed up and that there's no certainty about that?
So at this point, we have not been hearing concerns along those lines from our State Department of Health. So the way the vaccine rollout has worked in our county is that vaccine providers get approved through the State Department of Health. Once approved, then they can ask for a vaccine allocation. And so far, the allocated vaccine has been reflective both of the vaccine available, because I know that there have been some supply chain reductions, as with the planning for an additional second dose that gets ordered at the appropriate time. So 3 weeks for Pfizer, 4 weeks for Moderna.
Okay, as far as we know, that's going to come in smoothly. Okay, my second question is about the school guidance and this new strain. I guess I'm concerned that, the guidance that's been loosened based on experience from, the schools that have opened and such, that data kind of is irrelevant if there's a new strain that's, what I read was 70% more infectious. And it's coming fast. I mean, it started in England and now it's Florida and California. I mean, it's got to be a matter of days before we see it in Washington. So I'm just wondering how this affects the school guidance if we're now dealing with something that's 70% more infectious.
And that's why I'm taking this cautious approach, making sure that people who work and learn in our schools are safe. Is our first concern. We are looking at, so some of where I would expect to see that bump would be in transmission rates, and that's why we're taking a long view and looking at trends, and as well as looking at demographic information of who's getting sick from COVID-19 in our community. So all of those things will inform my guidance going forward.
Okay, thank you. And I'm sure that it's being thought of at the state level as well. I mean, I just hope that if the situation changes, folks aren't afraid to make the appropriate adjustments, because this is a fluid situation. The last question I had was about, I'm just curious about that exposure notification system that launched and whether you're seeing any success from it, less success or more success. I haven't heard really anything about it in terms of, are you finding cases that way, or has it played into the tracing and the investigation? How is it? What are the early assessments of that system?
Well, so there have been cases reported. But in terms of early success, it's still a little bit too early for us to know about those specific impacts. But it's definitely something that we're looking at, especially going into flu season. So the January, February, all of those times, and as folks come into contact with each other, in stores and in other areas. So I anticipate that it will have a significant impact, but we're still working on quantifying that.
Okay, very good. Thank you, guys. We're going to keep you online here, though, because we're going to move to item 6, which is our Board of Health draft agenda for next week, January 12th. I don't know if Dr. A needs to remain, but that's up to you guys. But I'm going to jump in here. We've got an agenda. I hope my seatmates have it. My packet didn't have it, but I was able to track it down. I hope you guys have the agenda. somebody confirm that?
I have it.
Yes, I have it.
Okay, very good. So meeting gets called to order at 3:30. It says, okay, approval of agenda and meeting minutes from December 15th. And then the second item is a proclamation presentation, which is 2021 election of officers for the Board of Health. This is similar to what we covered this morning for the Board of County Commissioners. I assume we'll just sort of formalize the discussion that we're going to have here just in a few minutes about those. There anything need to be said there, Shelley, about or Ramiro about that item?
I would just add, just for your reference and for the public, that by RCW 70.05040 responsibilities of local boards of health, that within 30 days of a change on Board of Health membership, that you must elect a chair at your next meeting by a separate action at the Board of Health meeting. So that's why this is on your Board of Health agenda, as well as I know on your Board of County Commissioners agenda.
Okay, that's good to know. Any questions about that item from commissioners?
None.
No, sir.
Okay. Number 3 will be opportunity for the public to address Board of Health, and we've been having public comment recently, so I would imagine we may have that. Any particular items, Shelley, that you're anticipating?
I haven't heard anything, sir.
Okay, Ramiro?
No, we received a couple of emails related to the school reopening, so you may receive additional testimony related to that as well.
Okay, number 4, consent items. This looks just as a placeholder. I don't see any consent items, so we'll see those next week if they pop up. But at this point, it would be straight to department item number 5, vaccine presentation. Shelley.
So Dr. Abdimalik and myself will provide a more in-depth overview and PowerPoint of our vaccine process for allocation and distribution plan going forward. So we'll be providing those slides to you shortly and doing that presentation. A little more expanded on what we covered at agenda setting just a few moments ago.
So on the agenda, this is said to be 5 minutes, but it sounds like that's not accurate.
I apologize. That should be a 15-minute item. We'll make that correction.
Okay.
That's our only department presentation for this meeting.
Okay, I'll address that in a second. Any questions from commissioners on this item?
Yes, I have one.
Go ahead, Commissioner Edwards.
As we move into that briefing, is there any chance that we could have more information on kind of the reality here? We kind of keep skirting what the real threat is. I know if you're an older person or if you have high blood pressure or diabetes or whatever. I mean, I know that your risk increases apparently, but also we've got younger people that are affected adversely if they get it. I mean, there's no two ways about it. This is a bad deal if you're one of the people that are adversely affected by this virus, more than what I might say is just the general population, because it seems like the general population is not too adversely affected. I've heard of ones that, lose their smell or their taste, or ones that don't, ones that really don't have anything. I remember we had a person in their 90s, and I believe that person's wife died, but yet he didn't have hardly any symptoms whatsoever. So I think the public would appreciate, and the reason I bring this up is because I get asked these questions all the time. What is the reality of the percentage that we're dealing with that truly might succumb to this disease, and to what degree? Hopefully they don't die. But at some point, we are going to have to make a conscious decision as a society. Where do we draw the line? How long do we hide in the hole until this thing is over? Because I'm afraid it's never going to be over. I think we're going to have to learn to live with it. And that means like the restaurant industry, for an example, they're going under. So many of these businesses are suffering and are not going to be able to recover. I just use restaurants as one example. So if 1/10 of our population, 1/10% of our population is likely to be adversely affected seriously, I feel it's up to that group to take it upon themselves as their responsibility to protect themselves as best they can, not shut down every business around and ruin our economy, because we're getting to the point there is just not enough resources to bail everybody out. And so I think we ought to have a report about the reality. I know you folks are very concerned about the health and well-being of our society, but we have so many other issues, whether it's mental health or going broke or, you know, kids in school. We've got so many other issues that we need to focus on. And I think we need that kind of information from you folks about the public policy decisions that we are yet to make that are going to help our communities survive. And I know we're talking about right here on a little local level, but I know it goes all the way up to the national and international for that matter. But we need to start dealing with reality. And, you know, like how many people are really in the hospital? I know how many we've had in the hospital. I know how many that we've have tested and how many come out positive and such. So those are the issues that I think that we really need to be getting information brought forward to us as policy folks. So I just pass that on to you. I think it'll be helpful as we move forward to hear about the reality. Okay?
Thank you, Commissioner Edwards. We'll try to incorporate that information. And I will say this presentation, our plan is to focus it on vaccines, and getting all of our residents in Thurston County is really our best shot at ending this pandemic as quickly as possible, so that we can get back to our new normal.
Yeah, yes, I realize you guys are doing everything you can, and I commend you for everything you are doing. But we have the bigger picture to deal with, which is, for an example, the economics of our community. We just can't hide and wait this thing out, especially when the answer is we don't know what's coming next year. We don't know if we're going to have immunities. We don't know if it's going to be like a normal flu season from now on. There are so many unknowns. We can't stay on lockdown is the bottom line. I see the protests developing, and I'm afraid they're going to turn violent at some point, and that's not going to be healthy either. So I'm just hoping we can garner as much information as possible to make good public policy decisions. Thank you.
Okay.
I think I'm back.
Okay.
Can you shut the door for me?
You're back in.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, my computer was battery just shut down, and before I could even get the plug in the wall, it just crashed. I heard all of that though through the door. So I guess I just wanted to say in response, I heard Commissioner Edwards' comments, but if that's the information that's going to be presented, you know, I'm hearing things that are a lot different than that. I read over the holiday about a study of the student athletes at Ohio State that was conducted where they agreed to do all the student athletes when they had their outbreak of COVID, and they studied those young people, and 30% of them showed long-term heart damage. So if we're going to get into the reality, I want it presented, all the scientific reality that we know. There's a lot that we don't know, and there's a lot that we're learning, but it's got to be sort of a comprehensive presentation of the facts, because if we present the impression to our citizens that this is not serious for people that are young, I don't know that that's accurate. And I think we're going to be sending the wrong message to the community if we present only one side of this very complicated question. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Commissioner Menser, I totally agree with you. That's what I talk about all the time. When we make public policy decisions, we need all the facts, not just one side or the other, but all of them. And just like your comment, I appreciate that very much.
Okay, very good. Commissioner Mejia, I don't know if you had a chance to say anything on this particular issue or wanted to.
I did not, but I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. So I don't know if Shelley, so what we're doing here, and I'm sorry, I'm kind of discombobulated here. I got cut out of the meeting, but I think we were just sort of addressing what will be covered in the presentation related to vaccine. And I think I heard your response to say that you would, what was your response to Commissioner Edwards' comment? I'm not sure I heard the full breadth of it.
We will be happy to incorporate some information about risks and the scientific data as we know it to date as part of our presentation. But the focus of this presentation that we want the Board of Health to have and we want members of the public is to provide timely information about our vaccine allocation and distribution plan for Thurston County.
Okay. And then that's the only major item presentation. I was looking back at my notes on our agenda setting conversation, and I saw that you and I had discussed potentially a point in time count presentation. I didn't know if you decided or if we're not going to be doing that or if that was an oversight.
I will be incorporating that into my director's report item.
Okay. Very good. Well, then with that, the next item on the agenda would be the Board of Health members, health-related activities. And then we have our two reports that are always important from the health officer and from yourself, Shelley. And then we would adjourn hopefully by 5 p.m. Any comments or questions on those kind of standing items from the agenda for the 12th?
None for me.
No, sir.
Okay, thank you, Shelley. Appreciate your time this morning. And that wraps up review of the Board of Health agenda for the 12th. And we're going to now move to item 7 on our work session agenda, which is proclamations and awards. Ramiro.
Yes, Commissioners, for your consideration on your packet, you have 2 proclamations. One is Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. And that is for you to consider adopting that on January 12th, which the commissioners will proclaim Law Enforcement Appreciation Day on Saturday, January 9th, 2021. In the next proclamation, I will leave that to Amy to walk us through that one.
Good morning, Commissioners. Amy Davis, Clerk of the Board. The next proclamation on your list today is for Martin Luther King Jr. Day. We would proclaim that next week on Tuesday, January 12th. And the courthouse is closed in observance on January 18th.
I don't actually have the proclamations in my packet. Must have been with the Board of Health that I didn't get. So I'll take a look at them. Do my other commissioners have questions or concerns about the proclamations?
I haven't read those myself because they are in the packet that I've got, and I have no questions, sir.
Yeah, we'll circulate this for your review, and certainly we'll incorporate any changes that you may want to incorporate those, for next week.
And then is the law enforcement, again, I don't have it in front of me, but is it sort of a generalized, is it particular appreciation for the sheriff's office, or is it general? Is it some kind of a national sort of observance of?
It's an overall law enforcement. It's countywide, not necessarily just to the sheriff's office.
Is it national? Is it in conjunction with the national?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, okay, good, thank you, all for it.
Okay, let's move then to number 8. We can address anything next week if that might need to be tweaked there. Advisory boards and commissions.
There are no applications for review this week.
Okay, and for Commissioner Mejia's benefit, we basically, usually this is the first time we see any applicants for a particular opening for a board or commission, or if there's not an opening, we'll just get the applications and we'll kind of discuss whether we need more time to look at them or if sometimes it's just a no-brainer and we go ahead and ask to move it forward, but nothing pending there. Next is PIO check-in.
Good morning, Commissioners. Megan Porter, Public Information Supervisor. The Qmatic kiosk system that I've been talking about the last month or so was supposed to go live yesterday, but they were having some hardware issues. So we are expecting to launch that next Monday. Again, that's just for building 1 where you would sign in. You can do it either online or using a QR code to get in line for the assessor's office, treasurer's office, auditor's office, and community planning and economic development. So we're hoping to have that launch next week. I'm currently working with your executive aides to set up meetings with each of the commissioners to talk about communications priorities for the next year and how my office can assist in those. After we hold those meetings, Brian and I will finalize the 2021 BoCC communications plan and bring that in front of you for your consideration for approval. The Comcast franchise agreement overview with the franchising attorney, Ken Feldman, will be taking place on January 13th. And the contract is scheduled to come before you for a vote on January 26th. And that's pending any questions, adjustments, or issues that may come out of the January 13th discussion. And then lastly, I've received quite a bit of feedback on the e-signature policy. So it's going to take me a little bit more time to update and finalize that for your review. I'm working on the updates this week and hoping to have a new draft out. I'm going to probably have to send it back out to the elected officials and chief deputies to look at again. So it may be a little bit longer than next week before it comes to you. There are quite a few questions about how to do the e-signatures, which the policy is not about that, but I'll need to work with Dennis at IT to come up with a response for how IT can help instruct on doing e-signatures instead of wet signatures. And pending any questions, that's what I have for you.
Any questions for Megan? Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
Commissioner Mejia?
I actually have a question in regards to the kiosk. I'm happy that that's going to be set up next week here in Building 1, but I saw a kiosk in Building 3 as well. What's the update on that one?
So Building 1 is kind of the pilot kiosk system, and once the one in Building 1 gets up and running, then they'll move throughout the following buildings.
Okay, thank you for that.
Megan, my question is about the, we've had, in the past, we've had Thurston County Connections, and we scaled that back, and I did a shorter video, and I think Commissioner Hutchings at least did one, and then talk about a podcast. And I'm just wondering, what's the current thinking of those programs or that programming that the commissioners did? Usually we would have a meet the commissioners kind of thing at this time of year, especially with a new commissioner. I wasn't sure if any of that kind of stuff is on tap.
So our communications plan really focuses on those types of activities. 2020 was a throw us into the virtual world, and so 2021 is going to be honing that virtual world a little bit more and how we can use that to our advantage to get information out. As far as the Meet the Commissioners, let's work on doing that, because that's something that's really watched by our community, and I think that they expect that. So we'll work on getting a Meet the Commissioners session set up with TC Media so we can get that going. Thank you for bringing that one up. But
yeah, I remember you always say that's one of the most popular ones.
Yep.
So I was wondering what the plan was on that.
It definitely is. And our communications plan really focuses on figuring out different ways other than maybe Thurston County Connection to get you and the commissioners in front of the camera to talk about different specific issues following guidelines that we're probably going to have to be following for the next while.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I know I've talked to Brian about, I like audio a lot more than video. So the podcast concept was very attractive to me. I was kind of wanted to try that, see how it would work.
That is definitely one of the strategies in the plan.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 10, legislative update. Ramiro.
Yeah, let me just walk you through it. Attached to in your packet is a report for the pre-file of bills for the 2021 legislative session. This is just for your information, just to give you a perspective. I am not going to be walking through each one of those, but I encourage you for you to read those bills that have been pre-filed. Just to let you know, does not include all the bills that will be considered in the 2021 legislative session. So there will be many, many more to come. And again, this is the first report, and I will continue on and start narrowing down some specific bills as we move into the following weeks. They may have an impact to the county. And at that point, I will give you a brief perspective and perhaps a potential a statement from the Board of County Commissioners. That's item number one. And number two, I do have a bill that has been proposed, House Bill 1058. And this is related to impose 0.1% councilmatic, that means they, without going to the public, that is the proposal of this bill, for cultural access programs. And this bill at the surface is just my assessment. At the surface seems to be adequate. It provides the counties an additional option for you to exercise your legislative decisions on implemented, again, a 0.1% for cultural access programs. As you may recall, the board has discussed on many occasions, at least in the last 2 years, as to what type of cultural programs the county has to be more systematic and direct in providing those activities available to county citizens. But never has been a mechanism. This, at least this provide a mechanism for you to consider if that is the case, this particular proposed bill. The only concern that I have this bill, it has if a county decides to implement this 0.1%, according to this proposal, they have to, the board needs to adopt this by December 31st, 2021. So, and that is the concern I believe I have related to this particular bill. Although they provides you the latitude to implement 0.1% of the sales tax, but it will be almost difficult to develop a plan for the board really to state to the citizens, what are you planning to do with this proposal, if that is the case. So that is probably where I am on this particular bill, is the very restrictive timeline in which puts the county on a bind in a way by December 31st, 2021. Because I don't think if the board decides to implement this taxation without having a plan, I think it will be a very difficult way for you to consider. My suggestion for you is I'm going to be meeting with the sponsor this week with Representative Bateman. And my recommendation for you, if you agree, is to, support the bill with a modification of the timeline to extend it for at least another year to give the county options. And again, this is not, if the bill is approved by the legislature, is not an imposition. It's just another tool for the board to exercise. That's what I have on. And a copy of the bill is included in your packet.
Robin, I saw your hand.
So I'm looking at the bill, and it appears to be a modification of a opportunity that was originally given to counties back in like 2014 or 2015, and a clarification that if the county does not act by a certain date, that the city has councilmatic authority to impose the tax. So while I completely agree with Romero that it would be unwise to move forward without a plan, and it may be difficult to create a plan, the county has considered this tax in the past. One of the main differences is in the past, we would have had to put this in front of the voters, and that appears to have changed.
Yeah, that is the fundamental difference. It gives the councilmatic option to the Board of County Commissioners to implement this.
I have a concern, if I get a comment, sir.
Go ahead, Commissioner Edwards.
to follow up on that deadline of December 31st this year, if the county does not enact that, then the municipality can enact that, but then the county can come back and enact it later, but they won't be able to collect those taxes that are spent in the municipality. Is that right?
The bill does appear to make clear that the county and the city cannot concurrently impose the tax. So if the county doesn't act and the city does, then I think the county is out of luck, if you will.
Yeah, that is, and that is why they give the very prescriptive deadline for the county to exercise first.
I guess I know it's premature to state a position on something like this, but my thing, I'll just say this up front, is that I'm very concerned about the priority on how we spend the public's money. So if folks are so inclined to promote this and can sell me on it, I would encourage them to talk to me about it, because initially I'm kind of more concerned about law enforcement, jail, maintenance in buildings. Our roads need a lot of repair. I mean, not to say this isn't important, but where does it fit on that continuum of priorities? So I won't say I'm for or against at this particular point because it's premature, but I just want to let people know where I'm at right up front. I always like to tell people that.
Commissioner Mejia, anything to comment or question on this?
Yeah, I agree with Ramiro. My concern is with that date and that timeline, that it puts really a strain on us on the turnaround time of this. So I agree with Ramiro and his commentary.
Is this the, go ahead, Robin.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wonder if we know the position of our cities on this.
This is just came to me last week, so I have not got the chance to check with the cities. And again, I guess the urgency is we have already scheduled a meeting with Representative Bateman, which is the sponsor of this bill for this Thursday, and I believe Commissioner Messer is participating on that meeting with me. And this is going to come up, and I just want to be make sure that I have a response, or at least that position from the county related to this particular bill.
Is cultural access programs defined in anywhere? I mean, is that the sum total of the limits of this? Is the act? It says act relating to modifying sales and tax for cultural access programs. I'm not even 100% sure what that means.
Yes, those are defined, not in the bill, because the bill again is amending existing RCW, but there is an RCW that applies definitions.
Okay. Well, I'll take a look at that then. I mean, I at a minimum, I agree with what Ramiro is proposing in terms of thing. I may have other concerns, you know, more toward Commissioner Edwards in a sense. I mean, only because I know that we're in an uncertain economy and we've got a lot of competing requests of us for additional revenue, whether it's transportation benefit district to help the roads, or it's you know, housing, whether it's there's Medic One, and there's Commissioner Hutchings had proposed a criminal justice, public safety tax. So I mean, there was our courthouse proposal that related to property tax. I mean, there's a lot of revenue proposals swirling around, and whether I would be in the next 12 months, you know, looking to impose this one would have to be balanced against all the other potential needs. So I get that. But, you know, usually I'm very much in favor of having a tool. And again, I guess the way this works is if Olympia, let's just say, if we didn't act, Olympia did act, then we could still act and incorporate Lacey and Tumwater or whoever, whatever city didn't act? Or is it kind of like?
I don't think so. I think at that point, you may want to, I think it will include the portions of the county they have not implemented the taxation, because I don't think you can have double taxation on the same issue.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. We wouldn't be limited to the unincorporated county.
Yeah, most likely, yeah.
Okay. Okay, well, I mean, I guess for now, in terms of the conversation that we'll have on Thursday, I think we should at least address because that seems to be a mutual concern.
Right.
That if it's going to work for the county at all, we'd need time to put a plan together. Again, it's hard for me to say that sitting here not knowing even the definition of a cultural access program.
Right.
So,
right.
I'll look into that tomorrow.
Edwards here. Could I make a comment, sir?
Mr. Edwards, go ahead.
At the least, if we do move forward, I would hope that we would do it early on so that we could at least make a proposal to go in front of the voters in one of the elections prior to December 31st. And even though the public does not have to vote on this, I think when we're talking about taxes in tough times, it's always best to ask the community what they think. And so I would hope we'd start on it early if we do it so that the public can have their say.
With an advisory vote? You're saying like to have an advisory vote?
Well, possibly, or even, I don't see, a public hearing even. We have to have some public discourse on this particular topic. The earlier the better, I believe.
Certainly, if this passes, if the days are considered changing, if the board likes to exercise this potential tool, certainly a public hearing is a must before you take any particular action. So, yeah.
I guess just as a point of interest, I'm just going to throw this out there because I have watched the bureaucracy grind very slowly on numerous occasions, and 1 year is not very much time in the legislative arena, if you will. It took us 4 years to get something done on affordable housing, which is, at this point, is auxiliary dwelling units in the county. So that took 4 years. I started on that 4 years ago, probably from today. And so when we're talking about making a legislative move in one fashion or another, it takes a lot of time, and that's why I'm advocating we start early, because the process is long.
Understood. Okay, very good. I think we're good on that item, Ramiro?
Yep, yes, sir, thank you.
Then item 11 is briefing or public hearing decisions pending.
Nothing pending.
Okay, then let's move to commissioner items. We're kind of running over, which was kind of, I wasn't expecting that, but the boards and commission assignments discussion is the first commissioner item. And as you pointed out, you've proposed a matrix that I think we all have in front of us based on input from all of us. And so I'll turn this to you, Ramiro, to frame what we need to decide today.
Yeah, I provided and also included in your packet is a draft proposal. And this is, again, based on what I'm hearing and also the changes in Commissioner District number 1. And also the third attempt was to balance all the many different assignments to the three of you. So let me begin by, and I will ask you to thumbs up or thumbs down on this. I will go line item by line item quickly. So the proposal for you for the Board of County Commissioners, for Commissioner Mensah to be the chair, Commissioner Edwards to be the vice chair, Commissioner Mejia to be the commissioner.
Do you want us to give you a thumbs up?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to give you a thumbs up on the whole list. Unless Commissioner Mensah feels different about it. So I just want you to know that.
But I think for the members of the public, it will be good for me to at least go through the main assignments.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good,
Okay.
the whole list.
So for the Board of
Unless you hear me say otherwise, I'm
Okay,
with you.
so for the Board of Health, a proposal is for the chair to be Commissioner Menser, Vice Chair Commissioner Mejia, and Commissioner Edwards will be the commissioner. Okay?
I'm looking to our new commissioner.
For the
If we have any objections, that's where I'm hanging my
The
hat.
Transportation Benefit District is the president be Commissioner Mejia, Vice President Commissioner Edwards, and Commissioner Menser will be the third commissioner. Okay? So I'm going to walk this very quickly. So stop me if you want to change and have a discussion, because we have close to 41 line items. Alliance for the Healthy South Sound, and I'm going to go with the primary and the alternate. Commissioner Mejia, Commissioner Edwards. Animal Service.
So hold on. That was the only one on this list that I wanted to comment on. I've been serving on that. I'm more than happy for Commissioner Mejia to serve on it. I was just going to offer, it really overlaps a lot with the Salmon Recovery Council work. And if she's feeling overwhelmed or wants to, I mean, I'm more than happy. It meets quarterly. So it's not a huge time commitment, but understanding what they do takes a little bit of time. If she wants to do it, happy to have her do it. I'm willing to keep going on it if that fits better.
Would you like to trade on something?
No, you wouldn't have to trade anything. I'll just take it.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want to do that, I'll just take that on because it's, like I say, it's not as big of a deal for me because I've already onboarded and it overlaps a lot of the projects we're doing with salmon recovery.
Do you hear a consensus on that proposal?
I'm okay, and if...
So if Commissioner Mejia is okay, we'll change that to Commissioner Menser. And maybe suggesting the alternate to be Commissioner Mejia.
Yes, please. Is that okay with you, Commissioner Edwards?
That's fine. Yep.
Okay, next, Animal Services, Commissioner Mejia, Commissioner Edwards. Area Agency on Aging, Commissioner Edwards, Commissioner Mejia. The Thurston Mission Behavioral Health Administrative Services, there's 2 assignments. The 2 commissioners will be Commissioner Menser and Commissioner Edwards. And the alternates will be Commissioner Mejia and Commissioner Menser. Yeah.
You say Mejia in both of those, or honestly, she should be backing up us both.
You're right. Commissioner Mejia should be back in both. Canvassing Board, and that is assignment for the chair, so Commissioner Menser, Commissioner Edwards. Capital Lake Lord Deschutes, Commissioner Menser, Commissioner Mejia. Cascade Pacific Alliance, Commissioner Edwards, Commissioner Mejia. Chehalis Basin Flood Authority, Commissioner Menser, Commissioner Edwards. Chehalis Basin Partnership, Commissioner Menser, Commissioner Edwards. DES Community Official Roundtable, that's assignment to the chair, Commissioner Menser, Commissioner Edwards. Disability Board, Commissioner Edwards, Commissioner Mejia.
Could I hold up there just for a second?
Which one?
I'm looking back at the Chehalis Basin Partnership, and I'm fine with that. I know that our new commissioner is in that district, and I'm really not. And it's only because of that. I am more than willing to be there, but I was thinking maybe. I know that Commissioner Menser's been on that whole thing and working on it, but possibly our new commissioner might be interested. I'm just throwing that out.
As the alternate or as the primary?
Well, as the alternate.
As the alternate,
what I was thinking.
So, okay, so what I'm hearing a consensus, that perhaps changing the alternate for the Chehalis Basin Flood Authority and the Chehalis Partnership.
Yeah, for both of those, actually, because...
Commissioner Mejia as the alternate.
Is that okay?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I'll miss too many meetings, so don't worry.
Economic Development Council, Commissioner Edwards, Commissioner Mejia. Emergency Food Shelter Program, Commissioner Mejia, Commissioner Menser. EMS Council, Commissioner Edwards, Commissioner Mejia. Finance Committee, that's assigned to the chair, Commissioner Menser, Commissioner Edwards. Fire Commissioners Association, Commissioner Edwards, Commissioner Mejia. Inner City Transit, Commissioner Mejia, Commissioner Menser. Law and Justice Council, Commissioner Menser, Commissioner Mejia. Library Board, Commissioner Menser, Commissioner Edwards, that's assigned to the chair. The Lodging Tax Advisory Committee, Commissioner Edwards, Commissioner Mejia. MOT, Commissioner Menser, Commissioner Mejia. Lucky Eagle Casino 2%, Commissioner Mejia, Commissioner Edwards. Mayor's Forum, that's assigned to the chair, Commissioner Menser, Commissioner Edwards. Nisqually River Council, Commissioner Edwards, Commissioner Menser. North Lewis Industrial Access Steering Committee, Commissioner Mejia, Commissioner Edwards. Orca.
I just to comment, I'm glad to do that one as well, but that particular one is in Commissioner Menser's district as well. So I'm just pointing that out, just if they're interested. I'll do it, no problem.
No, I think he's right. That's it's only met once in the 2 years I've been here, but if Commissioner Mejia weren't able to, it should probably be me backing her up.
The North Lewis Industrial Access Steering Committee, which one are you talking about?
Yes, that's it.
Industrial access.
Okay.
Because that's down in District 3.
So the suggestion is to replace Commissioner Mejia from Commissioner Menser?
No, have me backing up.
Okay, got it.
There's that depressed economic zone down there that I
Right.
think is a crucial piece of what our economic development might be in the future. So that's all. That's the only reason I say that.
Thank you. Pack Mountain Consortium, Commissioner Mejia, Commissioner Edwards. Salmon Recovery Council, Commissioner Menser, Commissioner Edwards. Elected Officials Council, Commissioner Edwards, Commissioner Mejia. Solid Waste Advisory Committee, Commissioner Mejia, Commissioner Edwards. TCOM, Commissioner Edwards, Commissioner Mejia. Thurston Tribes Coordinated Council, Commissioner Mejia, Commissioner Menser. The Tourism Promotion Area, Commissioner Mejia and County Auditor. Transportation Policy Board, Commissioner Mejia, Commissioner Edwards. TRPC, the Thurston Regional Planning Council, is Commissioner Edwards, Commissioner Menser. Climate Action Steering Committee, Commissioner Menser, Commissioner Mejia. Voluntary Stewardship Program, Commissioner Edwards, Commissioner Mejia. Washington Risk Pool, Commissioner Edwards, Commissioner Menser. Washington State Association of County Board of Directors, that's assignment to the chair, Commissioner Menser, Commissioner Edwards. The Washington Legislative Steering Committee is also assigned to the chair, which is Commissioner Menser, Commissioner Edwards. And lastly, but not least, is the Regional Housing Council, Commissioner Mejia, Commissioner Menser. And there's a staff on some of those. They will also either we attend as staff or also will serve as you as a feedback. So that's what I have. Any other comments, changes?
For what it's worth, you can remove, like for Salmon Recovery Council, I have a designated backup. It's not a commissioner because that's not a commission assignment per se. So you can remove Commissioner Edwards as backup. He would not have to do that. I have another person designated from the joint watershed group.
Okay. Any other changes?
No, sir.
So we'll update the action items for this afternoon. And good job. Thank you. And that was quick.
Okay, thank you, Romero. That takes us to item 12, 2, HB $1,406 for 2020.
Yes, thank you. And I'm going to try to give you a little bit of a background for the benefit of Commissioner Mejia. What we call is the House Bill $1,406. In 2019, the legislature passed this option for local governments to take a portion of the sales tax that goes to the state. They will address the needs of affordable and supportive housing. We had a large discussion on this, and it was a lot of coordination with the cities in terms of the timing for us to maximize the dollars that will come to as a result of 1406. Also, we had a large conversation that this action did not increase the sales tax to the citizens of Thurston County. It was just taking a portion of the sales tax that was going to the state for us to use that. And that portion was the 0.0146% of that we utilized that. So just to give you perspective, in 2020, we have generated close to $372,000 just for the county. As a follow-up, the cities has also exercised this option, which that was the sequential part of that was the whole process, which they also have that in place. One of the main objectives, the board, when they approved ordinance 51822, which is included in your packet, the intent of the board was to have this conversation as to how the $1406 should be distributed and allocated. And the intent of the board at that time, and I believe it still is, to have the conversations at the regional level. And the regional level and the setting in which that occurred is the Regional Housing Council. The Regional Housing Council has already, you already approved the formation of that council, and the other cities are in the process of doing so. The intent really of the $1406 is to find a project. To find a project, all the jurisdictions will pull all the $1406, we can have a long-term benefit and a larger impact to the community as a whole. And the overall generated of the $1406 at the county-wide level is close to $800,000 to $900,000, and that goes for 20 years. So there is a sunset date. The beauty of this bill, this legislation, is allows the local jurisdictions to bond this option. So it gives you the option for the Regional Housing Council to define a project, bond this, have the capital in place, and then pay off based on the revenues. And again, this is not a revenue or expenditure by counties, just exercising the options the state give us. So related to the $1406 and the conversations at the Regional Housing Council, we're in the process of drafting an interlocal agreement. An interlocal agreement that actually binds all the jurisdictions to have this regional approach on the years to come at the Regional Housing Council. That agreement is going through the process, has some commentaries and some that we need to address, but it's moving forward in terms of having solidified via this instrument the regional aspect of utilizing the $1406. During that conversation, there is since we really have not identified at the Regional Housing Council a project that we can utilize this funding option, it begs the question as to what is it that we're going to do with the collection that we have incurred in 2020. And again, the collection that we have received as a result of this action is $372,000 a year. So the proposal for you today, and this is related to the item they may consider on next week's agenda, board agenda, is for you to allocate the $372,000 to the Community Action Council to continue to support rental assistance. As you know, through the rental assistance, through the Coronavirus Relief Fund, the board allocated in 2020, and that ended December 31st. You heard from Kelly this morning. There is just about a little over $100,000 available to continue to provide the services to those in need related to rental assistance. And we don't know when the new allocation from the new federal coronavirus bill will come. So there's going to be a gap that we need to address in terms to continue to provide services and rental assistance. So the proposal for you today is for you to consider allocating the 2020 $1406 in the magnitude of $372,000 to allocate that to the Community Action Councils to continue to provide support for rental assistance on county citizens. I emphasize the county citizens because if you consider taking this action, it will be on all county citizens, including the cities and unincorporated of the county. It's not going to be limited, unless you want to do that, to only unincorporated of the county. So the proposal before you is to have this regional approach, have the Community Action Council continue to provide the rental assistance. They will include residents within the incorporated areas of the county. And one last comment before I open up for additional information from Tom. the majority of the beneficiaries of this rental assistance program has been city residents. So, and I'll stop there because I feel compelled to provide you with all that information before you can exercise your decision. Tom, did I miss anything?
I have a question when I get to it.
Yep.
Let's give input from Tom, and then we'll go to Commissioner Edwards.
I know that I ramble this through it quickly, but
There's a lot.
I think that was an excellent summary. I don't have anything to add. I can provide a little bit. I have reached out to the city of Tumwater, Lacey, and Olympia on how they're using their $1,406 this year. City of Olympia is also providing $130,000 Community Action Council for rental assistance activities. The city of Tumwater provided funding to the Together organization to provide for rental assistance activities. And the city of Lacey is working to acquire a property, a house that will be used in conjunction with a nonprofit to house up to 4 unaccompanied youth in the North Thurston School District to provide housing for those unaccompanied youth. So they're working on that project. Hasn't been finalized yet, so I hesitate to provide too many more details on that one. So, but Tumwater Olympia are also providing funding for rental assistance activities.
Okay, Commissioner Edwards, go ahead.
I guess I've kind of got a question and a concern and a comment, I guess, as we move forward on this. If we allow, I'm gonna use restaurants because I think restaurants are getting beat up recently. So if we allow a restaurant to go out of business that was employing 16 people and we don't help them through these tough times, we're just putting 16 more people on the unemployment or homeless or whatever you want to refer to it as. We're having a very detrimental effect. So my question is there any chance that this could be utilized similar to what we did through Thurston Strong, I think, where we did some assistance to businesses, rental assistance to businesses. I talked to one restaurant owner out in Tanglewild. It's in the county, employs 16 people. He thought he was going to be able to survive, but now with this new cutback, he has to continue paying rent of $6,000 a month to the landlord, and that's going to put him out of business. And that's a minority-owned business. I don't know if we have equity involved in that we can throw in the mix somehow, but I just think we're missing the boat if we pick out a select group at the, and I know the term doesn't sound right, but the bottom of the food chain, if you will, versus a midway up the food chain somewhere that would have a much better overall outcome with our community if they were to continue working versus another business closes down and then 16 of those people need to go get renter's assistance. So I'm just going to ask that question.
So I don't disagree with most of your comments, Commissioner Edwards. I think the key is we do not have the option under 1406 to utilize this money other than affordable and supporting housing. That is the restriction.
Even though the spinoff is a detrimental effect to.
So and let me use that example that you utilize. You know, I understand the business have been hardly hit by this pandemic. I don't disagree, and some of the employees have been affected by not having their paycheck, right?
Right.
Those employees affected could access, if they're in need, to get a rental assistance through this program.
Okay.
So there is a way as to how we can help those individuals affected by restaurants and businesses. If they are in need for help on rental assistance, this is the program to do so. But we cannot have a direct allocation to pay rental assistance for businesses. That is not allowed under this particular.
Okay, I mean, that doesn't surprise me because, you know, government's pretty short-sighted in my estimation when we can give people fish, but we can't teach them how to fish. And doesn't pay out very well in the end. But I mean, I'll accept that as a as an argument, we can only do what we're allowed to do.
Thank you. That's a good conclusion, really.
Yeah, okay.
Commissioner?
If I can also add another way to think of this that I think is important, especially with eviction moratorium, is a lot of the landlords, there's a lot of small mom and pop landlords and small property managers who are really struggling in collecting rent. So while this rent is supporting tenants stay in their housing, this money is also going to landlords to allow them to maintain their small businesses and properties as well. So, so this money is ending up supporting those businesses, those property management firms and property owners who are renting out their property. So I think there's a value in this program for those businesses as well, especially during this eviction moratorium.
I agree with you.
Yeah, and maybe just adding to what you just said, Tom, if somebody's qualified for rental assistance, the money doesn't go to the tenant, it goes to the landlord. So
that is correct. Payment is directly made to the landlord.
So this program is designed to help both the landlord as well as the tenant.
I wonder if they're living in the back of the restaurant. Maybe we can do that way.
Well, I don't think we can stretch stuff out.
Oh, good enough. I just thought I'd try. Thank you.
Commissioner Mejia, anything on this?
Thank you for bringing that up, Tom. I think the pandemic has affected not just people in the bottom of the food chain, as Commissioner Edwards said, but everyone. This has really affected working families, it's affected businesses, it's affected just everyone along the chain. And I think this is great. My question was, I did not quite get the figure of how much would be allocated. Ramiro, could you?
Yeah, in the proposal for the board to consider is only the county's allocation, which is $372,000 for 2020.
And my next question is, do we have figures on just the distribution of it? You know, how much is going, you know, to city residents and how much is going to unincorporated Thurston residents?
So we do have information. Community Action Council collected information, and I do have reports I can provide to you. I don't have it at my fingertips right now. Based on the mailing addresses of those folks who have received assistance under the ERAP program. So we do have information on how many had Olympia addresses versus Lacey versus Rochester or Tenino addresses. That will not necessarily capture everyone in an unincorporated part of the county if they have an Olympia mailing address or a Lacey mailing address. So we can kind of broadly have a sense of the distribution, but based on the information Community Action Council has collected, we cannot clearly separate out unincorporated county residents from residents of cities or jurisdictions.
Thank you.
Could I get one more comment on that, sir?
Yes.
There is a way to do that. If you could cross-reference with the State Department of Revenue, they have it right down to the address. You know, one side of the street's a municipality, the other side is unincorporated, even though both addresses say Olympia or Lacey or whatever. I just wonder if there isn't some way we could put some kind of a caveat that unincorporated, because this money that we're getting is raised in the unincorporated area, and I'd hate to see it all spent in the incorporated area. So is there some way we could put some kind of a priority caveat on the expenditure of these funds that the unincorporated resident gets a shot at it first, or I don't know, something like that? I mean, it's pretty complicated. We're trying to do something that's beneficial for all parties in Thurston County. I realize that. But I'm trying to be fair to all the participants in the game too, somehow.
Yeah, we can certainly look at options. We will certainly take the direction of the board and provide that to Community Action Council and follow your direction in terms of how you want to structure the use of these funds. So we can work with Community Action Council to prioritize funds, to set aside a portion of these funds for a portion of residents. So we can work with Community Action Council to structure this kind of as you direct us to move forward.
Is it premature for us to make the decision right now if you can't give us some of that basic information first? I'm just asking the question. I don't know.
I'm not asking you to make a decision today. Formal action is scheduled for you to take next Tuesday.
Okay.
And that's what I had that. We will revisit this item next Tuesday morning when you review the agenda for that afternoon. And maybe at that point, Tom can bring additional information. And maybe at that point, you can exercise, the board can exercise the options of incorporate some restrictions, if that is the direction you want to go.
I would just say that my response to that is that we've allocated millions of dollars through this so far, and this is $372,000, as I understand it, kind of a bridge. We may be getting some more money from the new Federal Relief Act, but I would be hesitant to put, to try to create just for this little bridge amount of money, I would really think we should just follow the what we've been doing before, just to keep it simple, to create a bunch of restrictions and side rails now. Now, if we get a whole new slew of money coming out of this new Federal Relief Act, and we want to talk about slight tweaks to the program, that would make more sense. But on this kind of short-term bridge money, which is fairly small in the grand scheme, I would be hesitant to try to be, fine-tuning, restrictions.
Yeah, and that is
I believe I'd go along with that, sir.
Yeah, that's the proposal from the staff. Is to have any restrictions.
Yeah, I'm good with that myself.
Okay, so. Perfect. Well, thank you. Is that what you need from us, Ramiro?
Yes, sir. We'll keep the item on next week's agenda. So when you review the item next Tuesday morning, so you have the whole breadth of the background related to this item.
Thank you, Tom.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks.
So that takes us, we have 2 items here. I don't know if they're placeholders, public testimony and other commissioner items.
Yeah, I just got, in the public testimony, you briefly discussed the letter that you received from Mr. Pettit yesterday, making an argument that perhaps this meeting it is illegal. You heard from Elizabeth. And at this point, I don't going to follow up with Mr. Pettit, since in his email, he threatened litigation against the county, and the county will respond when Mr. Pettit files such litigation.
Okay, and then typically, if we can get through our agenda prior to noon, we have a time for the commissioners to bring up any burning items. We really don't have that time today. It's 12:12. So if there's no objection,
Commissioner Menser.
Yeah.
There is one item that I've had a quick discussion with the county manager on. Maybe he's got a solution.
Okay.
That was the bond issue. And I don't know that it needs to be done today either, but each elected official needs to have a bond. And
Yes, I need to follow up. And you're talking about the $1,000 bond?
Yes.
As an elected official, I need to follow up with that information. I don't have that information right now.
Oh, okay, good enough.
Yep.
Okay, I'm good. Thank you, sir.
Any objection to adjourning at this point?
Nope.
Okay, then we are adjourned. We'll be back at 2 p.m. for our regular Board of County Commissioners meeting. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you, Commissioner Mejia.